Oh, hello, my baby gorillas. And what have we got today? Apologies for my no shows. I was, oh, that's not what I want to do. Wasn't well, so I was hoping I was feeling better, and I wasn't feeling better. So now I'm feeling better, and I have prepared a fantastic show for you guys. Let me just see if I've actually. Oh no, I haven't. I'm still working. If the cam goes dead at any point, just let me know and I will restart it. But hopefully I have fixed that as well. Oh my goodness, what is going on? So let me just make sure you guys are here and you guys are available to chat. So what's the first story? Oh my goodness. So this is from the Daily Mail. And this is 1 hour ago as well. Just let me know about the sound, guys, the chat, everything else. Just let me know what's happening. I was having problems with guys actually connected to the chat. I'm not quite sure what was happening with the chat. Anyway, so Labour, this is the Daily Mail 1 hour ago from Jack Maidment, Deputy Political Editor of Mail Online. And what have we got here? The Labour Party are now 2% higher. What looks like 38%. It would have been probably beneficial if the graph actually had percentages, but it looks like 38%. The Tories look like they're on 35 or 36%. The illiberal, liberal, undemocratic Democrats down 1, no change for the SNP on 5%. The watermelons are on probably 3%. Looks like the same for Reform Party, although they were getting nearly 7% at the last general election. The old Bexley and Sidcup by-election got that wrong, said Spain in the last podcast. And we've got others which are totaling about 7%. So Labour has opened up its biggest opinion poll lead over the Tories since Boris Johnson became Prime Minister, according to a new survey. I'm going to come on to the survey. I think I've got it up here about the survey that showed that independence in Scotland was up to 55%, which I don't think it is, but we'll come on to that. So I'm not really trusting in polls, and the polls can be manipulated to show whatever they want. We don't know who does the polls, if the pollsters have got a bias. And the polls are usually used to contain the two-party system. That's what the polls are there to do. Labour has opened up the biggest opinion poll lead over the Tories. So out the pot, into the fire, if the Labour Party and the loon balls that were actually now put forward to the front bench ever get into power. Tories, since Boris Johnson became Prime Minister, according to a new survey. A poll published by Survation gives Sir Keir Starmer's party, a multi-millionaire champion of the working class, a 3-point advantage over Mr Johnston and the Conservatives. The latest survey is also the first Survation poll since 2019 general election to put Labour in front. The boost for Sir Keir comes after Mr Johnston had suffered a difficult few weeks and bad headlines. Right. The Labour has opened up its biggest opinion poll lead over the Tories since Boris Johnson. Have I just said that? Oh, there's Bojo there, looking like Wurzel Gummidge. 3 points lead is the largest Labour has held over the Tories since 2019, when Mr Johnston became Premier. The poll of 1,060 people was conducted between November 30th and December the 1st. Mr Johnston has rocked in recent weeks by Westminster sleaze scandal and worsening migration channel crossing issues, which the Tories, I've already told you, the Tories are basically facilitating. His shambolic speech at the CBI and political attacks over the cost of living. He also faced a backlash after the poll was conducted over reports Downing Street held a party in the run up to the up to Christmas last year, when such events were banned under COVID restrictions and also keeping us locked in our house for 2 years. Salvation polls put Labour on 39% of the vote overall, up by 2% from the middle of November. Mr Johnson and the Tories are on 36%, down 1% on the previous survey. So the Green Party look like they're tanking as well. As you can see, they've not actually got the UK Reform Party as an actual party. The numbers are likely to prompt alarm bells in number 10 as the PM tries to steady the ship amid ongoing uncertainty over the coronavirus crisis because of the spread of the Omicron variant. Today's survey puts the illiberal, Liberal and Democratic Democrats in a distant third place on 9% of the vote. Nicola Sturgeon is on 5%, I mean honestly, while the Green Party and the Reform Party are both on 3%, although Nice Guy Eddie, Richard Tice nearly got 7%. So more good news for... I forgot to do this one. I knew there was one I was wanting to do. Shropshire by-election. Candidate standing. Here we go. The British Biased Broadcasting Corporation. So the North Shropshire by-election 2021, the candidate standing. I'm not even going to play that. People in the constituency of North Shropshire will head to the polls on the 16th of December to elect an MP. The votes follow the resignation of Conservative MP Owen Paterson, who was making corporatist decisions. Rather than actually having a capitalist society, we have a corporatist society where our political class are bunged by the corporations to skewer the market. The vote follows the resignation of the Conservative Party MP Owen Paterson, who was found to have breached parliamentary rules on lobbying. Former cabinet minister Mr Paterson has held the constituency a Tory stronghold since 1997. These are the candidates standing for the election, listed alphabetically. We invite all of them to film a 1-minute manifesto. Well, that's the first time that the BBC have been even remotely even-handed introduced themselves and setting out the policies in their own words. 12 of the candidates supplied videos, and you can watch them below. Which is good, which is certainly a progress, but from the BBC. Susie Akers-Smith, Independent. Let's hear what Susie's got to say.
Hello, North Shropshire. My name is Susie Akers-Smith, and I am your independent parliamentary candidate for the forthcoming by-election. And I need 18,000 of your votes to make the 16th of December a day to remember. I stood in 2015 as a Conservative and I got elected. I've become so disillusioned with the Conservatives. I stood as an independent in 2019. I was told, Tory Town, you're not going to get elected. But guess what? I got more votes than any other councillor through engaging, through listening and supporting my community. But don't just take my word for it. Google search my name and read about all the great campaigning and the work that I have done to support my communities along with other independents. If you like what you see, elect me to be your independent MP for North Shropshire, and let's see the difference that makes. Because if we change nothing, nothing will change.
Seems like a really nice lady. 1 minute is not long enough to actually find out what the policies are. Am I just electing her on how nice she is? Because she seems very nice. this is not long enough, and we have to find out what does she stand for. Where is she in the political compass? What does she? What's going to be her policies if she's independent? Oh my goodness. Susie is an independent, but she seems very nice. Andrea Allen, UKIP. Here we go, Andrea. Let's have your big time on the Guerilla TV channel.
Hello, I'm Andrea Allen and I'm standing for UKIP. Immigration must be managed to relieve pressure of numbers on housing, education and the NHS. Green fields should remain green. Any large development should be denied planning permission until the infrastructure to support it has been put in place. I support small state, low tax, personal responsibility and the family unit. I call for an end to the TV tax. GPs should be paid by the number of patients they actually see, not the numbers on their list. Defence of the realm is essential, but we should not get involved in foreign wars. Veterans homeless on the street should be given priority. Energy policies should be sensible and affordable, using the latest technology to promote cleaner, traditional power stations that provide a steady, reliable source of energy. Not all cultures are the same. Ideologies that are intolerant, undemocratic and incompatible with liberal Western values should not be encouraged. UKIP is a patriotic party, which puts the British people and nation in the forefront. If you agree with me, please put your X in the box next to my name. Hello, I'm Andrea.
My goodness, that's fantastic. That's great. I think that's very good, Andrea. I would definitely vote on those policies as well. That's excellent. Former modern language teacher, parish councillor. She seems very competent. Boris been bungled, rejoined the EU. Oh my goodness, here we go.
Since opposition parties are being so quiet about Tory corruption as well as Brexit, it presents a sleazy opportunity for me to leap in and rake up more cash for myself, just like the previous MP for North Shropshire did. £300,000. Utterly shameful. I'm sure I could get more than £1 million's worth. Forgive me. People might say that I'm a joke candidate, but if you've got a horse in this race and they're not opposing sleaze and Brexit, well then, the joke's on you. I hope Shropshire's fishermen aren't too unhappy about the whole Brexit confoundment, or is it the farmers that I've upset there? Honestly, some people are so ungrateful. Thanks for listening. Time to get back to my dinner. Could you pass the pepper for my
quite funny, isn't
sandwich?
it? Quite funny in the great British tradition. So we've got Martin Dobney, Dodney, I think. The Reclaim Party. Let's hear you, Mr. Dodney.
Hi, I'm Martin Daubney of the Reclaim Party.
That's not bad, that was
proud
close.
to represent you as your MEP for the West Midlands and go to Brussels to get Brexit done. But the hard work is just beginning. This government has lost control of illegal immigration. We will protect our borders, stop the boats and end this humanitarian crisis. This government has lost control of the cost of living. We will cut VAT on fuel duty. This government has lost control of green taxes. We demand a referendum on uncosted net zero targets that will cost you thousands of pounds every year until 2050. Locally, it's time to tackle appalling NHS ambulance waiting times that prove North Shropshire is being completely taken for granted by this government, who only cares about its new red wall seats. The people of North Shropshire, your country needs you. Let's teach them a lesson on December the 16th. It's your country, it's your money, it's your future.
So basically, Reclaim and UKIP are saying roughly the same thing. So we've got two parties roughly similar. Not a million miles away. I don't know why they're not joining up. But splitting the vote is going to be even harder just now anyway. It would be better splitting when they were a substantial party, because you will really need every vote to break the two-party system. Okay, the party. My friend actually said that he would actually vote for the party. He actually came up with the idea of a party, the party years ago. And I can't believe somebody's actually done it.
My name is Russell Dean, and I represent the Party, which has some very inclusive policies, which I trust you will appreciate. If any chance that you could support us, it would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, well, that was clear then. I definitely know what I'm going to be voting for there. Thank you very much, Mr. Dean. The Heritage Party, so this is David Curtin's. Again, I think this is going to be
James
similar.
Elliott. I'm standing for the Heritage Party,
Similar to UKIP and the Reclaim.
and I'm here to take the working man into Westminster. We need faster ambulance response times for our rural and isolated communities. We need to bring back the triple lock pension for so many people who rely on it. We need to look after our agricultural industries and also our small businesses who have mainly been hit so hard. We need to bring back real apprenticeships. We also need to make Britain a manufacturing nation once again. Before we can do this, we need to heavily invest in our schools in the technological sectors and make our schools world class. Do the right thing, Shropshire. Vote for James, because that's a vote for yourself, your family, your nation. Thank you.
Okay, that didn't stimulate me there from the policy point of view or the delivery, but he seems like a nice enough fella. So we've got the Monster and Raven Loonies.
Hello, I am Alan Hope, also known as Howling Lord Hope. I am the leader of the official Monster Raving Loony Party.
Can you imagine the Monster Raven Loony Party actually won a majority of seats in the UK? That would be, wow.
And have been for the last 22 years. I am now Britain's longest serving parliamentary party leader, having just overtaken Clement Attlee. I shall be standing in the Shropshire North by-election on December the 16th. The party that's on your side, no matter what your political persuasion may be. You know you always wanted to vote for us, but now's your chance. Just like you've seen it all before, heard it all before, and still don't believe it. The only wasted vote is one that's not used. So, if you don't usually vote, then vote unusually. Vote for me. Vote loony. Show the other parties that you do care, but not necessarily for them. Vote for the official Monster Raven Loony Party. Hello.
Oof. They certainly bring a flair to the Monster Raven Loony. All the jokey parties certainly bring a flair to British politics. So Errol Jess, Freedom Alliance. Now the Freedom Alliance, I think, are actually a libertarian party, and possibly I'm not sure if UKIP would. UKIP and the Family Party. I'm not sure where the Reclaim Party is. I'd like to get them on to find out where they are. But I think the Freedom Alliance are a libertarian party. I'm not quite sure where they are on this. But I don't think she... Unfortunately, that's unfortunate. I'd like to have actually heard her talk about issues. Yolande Kenward, found the Patient Sport Trust in 2000. So here we go, we've got the Communist Green Party.
Hello, I'm Councillor Duncan Kerr and I'm standing for the Green Party. And I'd suggest to you that in this election, you let actions speak louder than words and look for a candidate with the strongest track record of actually improving things here in North Shropshire. And that's where the Green Party has been so active over so many years. With our newsletters and our surgeries and our campaigns, we've really made a difference. We've got control of the town council and introduced many new services and ideas. We're also the only party to gain seats in North Shropshire in the recent Shropshire Council elections. These past years, these COVID years, have been really difficult for some of our families. Many of them reliant upon food banks. Public transport's very difficult in this area, social care is under pressure, and the health service has to be defended on a weekly basis. We need a strong champion who can really stand up for our communities, and that person needs to understand what those needs are and hit the ground running, and I can be that person.
Okay. Not really saying what policies they're going to take to Westminster, are they? Well,
My name's Helen Morgan and I'm the Liberal Democrat
So we've got the illiberal, undemocratic Democrats.
candidate at the North Shropshire by-election. I live locally in Harmer Hill with my husband and my son. We moved here about 8 years ago.
Right, you've got a minute to go. What are you going to do in the Parliament?
To be closer to my family. And we love living here and we're proud of our area.
Right, so 13 seconds into 52 seconds, so a fifth of the way there. Don't know anything about what you're going to do for the constituents.
But it's been taken for granted by the Conservatives for too long. I want to be an MP who listens to people's concerns and
Everybody says that.
fights their corner. We've knocked on hundreds of doors and local people are telling us that they can't access their GP, that ambulance wait times are too long and that A&E is struggling. We've also written to thousands of farmers and they're telling us that they're unhappy with the government's trade deals and that they're unhappy with the way the farm payment scheme is being phased out. And I want to reflect their concerns. It doesn't have to be this way. We don't have to be taken for granted. A vote for me and the Liberal Democrats at this by-election will send the government a strong message that we won't be taken for granted anymore.
Yeah. Dr. Neil Shastri Hurst.
Hi, I'm Neil Shastri-Hurst and I'm standing
And I promise to be a corporatist just like my predecessor.
as the Conservative candidate to become the next Member of Parliament for North Shropshire. If we work together, we can secure new investment, we can improve our local
New investment in me.
services, and we can put North Shropshire first. As a doctor, people's health has always been a priority for me. That's why I volunteered to go back into the NHS during COVID, and it's why healthcare is my top commitment. I'll be using my NHS experience to ensure that we're getting more investment into our local hospitals and we're reducing those ambulance wait times. It's all part of my long-term plan for North Shropshire, which also includes better infrastructure,
He sounds like Boris Johnson.
dualling the A5, reopening the Bowen to Oswestry line and rolling out broadband to our rural communities. Better support for our businesses, including our farmers and our fantastic independent shops and pubs in our town and village centres. And I make one commitment, that
Well, your one commitment should be to get us out of lockdown.
is to be a first-class, accessible constituency Member of Parliament, raising my family here and putting North Shropshire first.
Well, this is good because you can now, this should happen in all the constituencies because you can now see who and what you're voting for. And personally, I wouldn't be voting for him, although I think he'll probably win. Here we go. Let's see if this woman is up to what she's been touted as. Kirsty Walmsley, UK Reform Party.
I'm Kirsty Walmsley and I'm standing for Reform UK. I live here in Wem with my 2 small children and my husband Jonathan. And I'm standing for Parliament because I'm passionate about our rural communities. There are 3 things I'm fighting for. 1, to improve healthcare. We should be able to see a GP when we need to, and ambulances should take minutes, not hours to arrive. 2, we need to do more to support our local independent businesses that are the lifeblood of our communities. And 3, we're all feeling the pinch of the rising cost of living and energy prices going up. It's time the government stepped in and intervened. Make no mistake, I'm the candidate they don't want you to vote for. I will be a strong, independent champion in Parliament, and I will never be forced to vote along party lines. I'll always be able to put the interests of the people of North Shropshire first and foremost.
Okay, but didn't really tell us about UKIP policies. That was a minute there to tell us about UKIP policies and what you're going to do once you're in. I think I'm going to listen to that again just in case I'm being overly critical.
I'm Kirsty Walmsley and I'm standing for Reform UK. I live here in Wem with my 2 small children and my husband Jonathan.
I understand that makes you sound personable, but that doesn't matter to me as a constituent. I want to know what the Reform UK are going to do if they were to elect you, or what policies they're going to put in.
And I'm standing for Parliament because I'm passionate about our rural communities.
All of that is just waffle. So that's not just from you, but the other candidates have been saying about their passion about their constituents, and doesn't mean anything.
There are 3 things I'm fighting for. 1, to improve healthcare.
Right, that's abstract.
We should be able to see a GP when we need to, and ambulances should take minutes, not hours, to arrive.
Right, so everybody said that so far.
2, we need to do more to support our local independent businesses
That's a good policy.
that are the lifeblood of our communities. And 3, we're all feeling the pinch of the rising cost of living and energy prices going up. It's time the government stepped in and intervened. Make no mistake, I'm the candidate they don't want you to vote for.
I agree, and that's probably why you should get the
Will be a
votes.
strong independent champion in Parliament, and I will never be forced to vote along party lines.
And this is the thing the Tories could, Tory voters in that constituency could do, and is actually switch to the UK Reform Party, because de facto she's probably in the same ballpark but different, and that might actually be a kick in a shot in the arm to the Conservative Party. So if the Conservative voters in the constituency voted for her, that would be a real kick in the backside for Bojo.
Hiya, I'm Ben Wood and I'm Labour's local candidate in the upcoming North Shropshire by-election.
My God, he's shiny.
I've got a local plan which I'm putting forward in this campaign, and it's all about public services. For too long, our towns and our villages have been growing in size, but our public services have been shrinking. We no longer see police on the streets. They've closed our
Where are they? Where are they? In the donut shops?
ambulance stations, they've closed our maternity units, and our schools are really struggling, especially with class sizes. But our campaign's more.
But we believe in open immigration, so what do you expect?
than that. It's also about bringing fresh, new and exciting opportunities to the area that I'm from. I want to invest in public transport,
Personally?
invest in the future of our high streets, scrapping business rates and bringing good quality.
Scrapping business rates. The scrapping business rates part of the Labour Party policy these days. I don't think it is. I think increasing taxes just like Bojo's done.
High-skilled jobs in North Shropshire. That's my local plan, and I'll be a local voice for our area if I'm elected to Parliament. We all know that this is a 2-horse race, and it's between the Labour and the Tories in this one. And for the first time in a
I mean, it's like the devil in the deep blue sea.
generation, we have a real chance of making a difference here. I'm from Oswestry born and bred. I want to stand up for North Shropshire, shake things about, and put forward my local plan.
Oh my God, he sounds so boring, doesn't he? I don't think he could shake up a milkshake. What are you guys saying? Is anybody here? Hello. Bernadette, my favourite subscriber. All's good, sounds great, thanks. Cranky's doomed. Yes, she's doomed. Bernadette, doomed. Yeah, she's... I think she knows her time's up, or time's coming up. She was doing that, I want to last forever. But she's between a rock and a hard place. I mean, she's got the allegations of where's the £600,000. Her husband is potentially going to be up in a perjury trials. That's one aspect. And then she's got a referendum, which I'll come on to later, where they're saying it's now 55% for independence, which I don't know if it is. But we'll see Dr. Curtis speak about this later on. But yeah, she's... I don't think she will last the 4 years. And I don't think it'll come a minute too soon for the Scottish electorate. All candidates have submitted their completed nominations by 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, and a deposit of £500 was also taken, which is returned if the candidate gets more than 5% of the votes in the election. So, that was quite interesting there. Let's get rid of them. I think there's actually more. There's some more. No, maybe that's it. Okay, so what's actually been happening in North Shropshire? Oh, it's getting worse and worse. So, Hope Not Hate are a communist organisation. They've backed the people that have killed 100 million people. So these are the Hope Not Hate. If you hear about these guys, these are communists. This is a communist paper. These are the loony left. These are the people that have killed 100 million people, and they hide behind the title of Hope Not Hate. Even though they're communists, self-confessed communists, they've been let in to advise Boris Johnson. So again, I don't know why Boris Johnson is placating communists in his so-called conservatism, conservative government, unless in his woke agenda, which is well known as the underlying globalist agenda. Let's see the bias and the bile that will come out of Hope Not Hate, as if they're some sort of the good guys. These are the bad guys. These are not the liberals like myself. These are the loony left in Hope Not Hate. Communists. 100 million people died from these characters. Reclaim's first councillor is nothing to celebrate. No, right. So I would say Colin Fox is a nice guy, just like nice guy Eddie Richard Tice. Both nice fellas, both probably liberals, maybe a wee bit libertarian, some of them, maybe quite centrist. They could actually be centrist, both Colin Fox and just traditional British liberal values, I think, Colin Fox and nice guy Eddie Richard Tice. So they're the centrists. We have to understand that when they say right wing or far right, they actually mean liberal. But it's because that they're so far left. They're communists. These are, whether it be postmodernist Marxists or actual Marxists or the loony left, basically, as well as Islamists and these are the extremists on the left. So anybody that says that somebody else is far right, who might be a liberal, is the extreme. So you have it's a word salad. I know it's hard to understand sometimes, but you can pretty much take that for read. Colin Fox party have warmly welcomed the defection of bigoted former bigoted. There it is there. Hope Not Hate, but yet throwing about adjectives like bigoted. I'm sure the communists here have not done anything bigoted. 100 million people dead. The Reclaim Party, the new Culture Wars obsessed political party. Culture Wars from the postmodernist Marxists, because they had to change it because they'd killed so many people. The old Marxists had killed so many people. They had to become now this new postmodernist racist Marxism. Oh, God. Reclaim Party, the new Culture Wars obsessed political party set up by actor Colin Fox, announced on Monday that it had a bombshell revelation ahead of North Shropshire by-election. Now, and I think what might happen is before the next general election, Reclaim and UK Reform will merge. Maybe even the Heritage Party with David Curtin as well. He's a nice guy. And they might all merge. And even UKIP, these four parties should merge again, probably under UK Reform Party, because that's got the strongest brand, and they should coalesce. And nice guy Eddie Richard Tice should give Colin Fox and people in the Reform Party and David Curtin, who's also a big political hitter in a small party, he needs to go back as well, and the guys in UKIP and the guys in Reclaim, positions of importance, because every one of them are big political hitters in their own right as well. Colin maybe not as much. David Curtin certainly was in the London Assembly. Two problems from the communists. Here we go. North Shropshire, top local Tory councillor Anton Allen defects to the Reclaim Party just 10 days before the polling. Two problems. He's not a top local councillor, and he's definitely not someone that anyone should be glad to have in their party. All right, so says the communists. Racism is not banter. So basically, the word racism was popularised by Trotsky, the communist who eventually, I think, got a nice pick in his head. and that word racist was popularised in Trotsky's book. I can't remember which one it was. How to Destroy an Economy Under Socialism, I think it was called. And so the word racist comes from as a communist word that comes from Trotsky, and he actually put that word forward. And he was the first one to popularise that, to basically browbeat anybody who doesn't agree with the communist ideology. And now what they've done is brought in racist Marxism under the Frankfurt School and the Paris School subsequently in the 70s, and brought in identity communist politics. So basically, like the Nazis or the Nazbogs, the National Bolshevik ideology as well, a hybrid racist ideology, except the racism is against white people. That's why they keep saying white supremacy and all these other buzzwords from the communists. And a lot of mainstream liberals and the corporatist globalists are also using the word white supremacy, even though they're white. It's almost like a reverse racism where these white people want to discriminate against other people, but this is obviously just about hierarchical politics, while they're white and they want to stay in power. So it's a form of racism. So he's not a top local councillor, and he's definitely not someone that anyone should be glad to have in their party. All right, I see. Let me just see if I can stick this up on YouTube if I were on. Shouldn't be a problem. Oh, here we go. Let's go. Stick it up here. And so let's go back. Far worse, it appears that neither the Conservative Party nor the Clean Party have done much vetting of Allen before allowing him to represent the party. If they had, they'd have found a Facebook profile littered with vile anti-Muslim sentiment. I'm going to come on to what happened to a gentleman in Pakistan by Muslims. So we can understand that 100 million people have died under the communists that these guys represent, hope not hate, and 300 million people over 1400 years of Islam. Another one just the other day, which I'll come on to later on. Far worse, it appears that neither the Conservative Party nor Reclaim have done any vetting before allowing him to represent the party. If they had, they would have found Facebook profile littered with anti-sentiment and abusive messages. Can you see that? All of the treasonous leeches in the government need to be careful how far they try to go against the will of the people. You should support the public hanging of treasonous politicians. Well, yeah, there's certainly, I don't disagree with what Mr. Allen's saying there. There's certainly, if you look at treason, it's the supporting of other governments and the influence of other governments. Allen clearly holds some deeply unpleasant views. Well, so do you. This is a communist publication, so do you. You've killed 100 million people so far, and they keep talking about fascism and racism. Obviously, fascism is a far left ideology, just like the communists here as well, in Hope Not Hate. Allen clearly holds some deeply unpleasant views. So does Islam, funnily enough, as well as the communists. In the replies to a post in which Allen refers to the Prime Minister Theresa May as a vile leech, he described his preference for someone with hardline Christian values to stop Muslim takeover, while in another he said we may as well change the name of England to Englistan. Well, I think these are just questions. Allen appears to idolise the anti-Muslim activist thug Stephen Yaxley Leonard, aka Tommy Robinson. In one post he declares Tommy for PM, while in another he says go on Tommy lad. So, but I mean, I was down, I don't really know Tommy Robinson, but I was down actually covering I think I was getting slandered by Hope Not Hate again. The fact that Tommy Robinson was getting put in jail for covering a trial of another Muslim rape gang, and I'll show you a wee bit later on about what is actually happening with the paedophile hunters and the fact that they're actually catching people who are just nearly off the boats grooming children in the UK, and the British establishment, including the Tory party, are doing nothing. Neither any of the 5 main parties that are elected and got members in the Parliament. I fail to see how Tommy Robinson has been demonised as a hate figure, but the rape of children and the cover-up by the Lib Lab Con Party and the facilitation of illegal immigration by the Lib Lab Con Party, the Greens, the SNP, Plaid Cymru. So all of them have facilitated this. Yet Tommy Robinson is the hate figure. Alan added, I have no idea if this is a genuine letter, but if not, it's bloody what it should be. A fake letter purporting to Oriel College, Oxford, to its black students, which include the sentence, all of your ancestors doing in that period living. Oh, right, well, I'm not getting into that as well. So he didn't write that anyway. It endorsed the far-right great replacement theory. It's a theory, is it? Oh, I didn't realise that. Okay, which holds that a deliberate plot to replace Europeans via immigration is underway. Well, I think anybody with any sense can see that people are just being able to rock up and not getting deported, illegally entering the country. A notion that has inspired a number of terrorist attacks. What do you mean, like the 100 Muslim terrorist attacks in 7/7? Or 80, I think it is now. Sorry, not 100, 80. Remains to be seen whether Mr. Allen is the sort of person that the Reclaim Party would like to represent them, and there is no doubt that his views and abusive comments will disgust the majority of voters. Both the Conservative and Reclaim Party should reflect on what the man might represent. It seems like Hate Not Hope supports an ideology in Islam that actually wants to have female sex slaves, that wants to have children being able to have sex with children. They seem to be supporting it. The communists seem to be supporting this ideology. I guess, again, 2 mass murdering ideologies, whether it be the communists of Hope Not Hate or the Islamists who have killed 300 million people, but they seem to have a mutual bonding on their murderous death cults. So that was obviously a smear piece. That's what Hope Not Hate are there to do. It'd be very interesting to know who finances Hope Not Hate. It's probably Boris Johnson and his progressive postmodernist Marxist woke agenda. So not suffice that one Tory MP, Tory local councillor jumped and joined the Reclaim Party. We've now got another Conservative councillor jumped and joined the UK Reform Party, and this is the deputy mayor and Conservative branch chairman Mark Wheatley joins Reform UK to support Kirsty Walmsley, the only credible local candidate. So that's a major scalp for UK Reform Party in the run-up to the election. So it wouldn't surprise me if she retains her deposit. Now they've got an organiser on the ground in North Shropshire, which is what they require. This guy was the leader of the Conservative Party, or the deputy mayor, and the branch leader of the Conservative Party. So if he works and starts to generate councillors for her then to actually have something to work on, local councillors, then obviously the increase in the popular share for the Reform Party will go up. But obviously now that she's standing as an MP, the real grassroots is required by this gentleman. and the development of the branch structure for UK reform to actually support the MPs in the future by actually having councillors. So, Councillor Mark Wheatley, Deputy Mayor of... Let me just increase this, sorry. Mark Wheatley, Deputy Mayor of Market Drayton, has joined Reform UK in the midst of the hotly contested by-election after a lifetime supporting the Conservatives. Mr Wheatley, a full-time ambulance driver and military veteran of 20 years service, is a former mayor of the town in the constituency who joined Reform UK, having met the Conservative candidate campaigning. Mr Wheatley said, as chairman of the Market Drayton Conservative Party, the member of Shropshire Conservative Executive, this is the most difficult decision I've ever made. Possibly the correct one though, made only after a great deal of soul searching. I faced with no choice how I possibly back a candidate for Birmingham who has zero knowledge of, he's talking about the Conservative candidate of North Shropshire, and challenges our community faces, and the challenges that our community faces. It's too late for him to relocate to Shropshire if he wins. The Conservatives should have selected a local rather than be pressured into supporting someone who has no prior interest or knowledge of the area. As chairman of the Conservative Party in Market Drayton and a voting member of the Conservative Executive Committee, it is therefore makes this decision a vital one. Yeah, so he's obviously a highly significant player, because obviously the Tories control that. And he obviously, previous Tory candidates would have maybe came from there or had a good reputation there, and he would have been supporting them. This is a big scalp for UK reform, and I think they'll retain their deposit, and they'll get a sizable chunk of the votes on the back of this. Why am I supporting Kirsty Walmsley? Her commitment and challenge the status quo and fight for North Shropshire. She highlighted concerns over health locally and worsening local NHS provision. She is a champion of and supporter of small businesses, farming community in Shropshire. She is prepared to fight for the desperately overdue reforms to the local infrastructure, including lack of both east, west, north, south transport links. Kirsty is a local Shropshire lass who has great integrity. Kirsty has lived in North Shropshire all her life and currently lives in the heart of the county in Weem. The family business was based in Oswestry, and her extended family is involved in Shropshire farming. Kirsty is streets ahead of both the Conservatives and all other candidates currently standing. The people of Market Drayton and North Shropshire both need and deserve an MP who understands and listens and acts on their concerns with both passion and energy. She is a breath of fresh air. She understands Shropshire and its future needs. Oh, so that's very interesting, isn't it? That's off of the Reform UK website. So here we go. This is what you all came for. That was me just giving you a wee warm-up in the meantime. How are we doing, guys? Davey, stop drinking that crap, sugary brain syrup drinks. Okay, Teresa, I'll stop doing that. The likes of Antifa and Hope Not Hate call anything not communist a fascist. That's right. Everything's far right because they're far left. They're the loony left. The Third World War is in full swing. Its psychological war begins waging through dishonest media and government who are financed through corrupt corporations. That's right, Teresa. Hope Not Hate are a joke. Yeah, Danny, that's right. And they featured a good friend of mine regularly have been given screenshots of private Facebook posts. They definitely have cops feeding them the screenshots. Well, I would suggest that it's not just the cops. I'm sure that Hope Not Hate. So the Conservative Party are actually dealing with these communists. Boris Johnson has actually got these communists involved in their Conservative Party racism inquiry. Hope Not Hate submission of evidence. So we've got communists submitting, who have killed 100 million people, submitting evidence on another ideology that's killed 300 million people over 1400 years. The document related to YouGov polls shows the wide extent of anti-Muslim, a child rapist death cult prejudice within the Conservative Party. All right. So a bunch of communists are giving evidence to the campaign, as explained on their website. The Hope Not Hate campaign was founded in 2004 to provide a positive antidote to politics of hate. Yet they're communists, and the Islam, which I'm going to show in a minute, is an ideology of hate, just like the communists here. So I don't understand what the issue is. On the 30th of September 2020, they added a page to their website, The Deep Roots of Islamophobia in the Conservative Party. Document, blah, 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 background to the inquiry. So we've got a bunch of communists talking about Islam and the fact that it's only racism to other people. It's not racism, but it can be racism to white people. I don't think they've done a racist thing on and what they do is they actually so there's they haven't done this. So when's that? That's abducting a white boy, Asians. Oh no, that's the Chris Donald murder. So by 6 Asians in Glasgow. That's not the one. There was six Asian boys. And so what they do is they're now actually burying it'll go up the murder of it, like if it's a white boy, will go up here and they'll actually bury the news, so it'll go up and then they'll actually try and pull it off. So there was a boy murdered by 6 Asian teenagers. They've actually had their sentences increased. 6 Muslim boys killed 1 white boy, and they then attempted to murder the other white boy. But the communists here don't cover that. It only goes one way from these communists, and that's it. So it's not like a balance between what's actually happening. It's only racism from white people. It's not racism from anybody else, and that's obviously the slanted decisions that they've actually got here. And this is the problem. So we've got Tories getting investigations by allowing investigations by a bunch of communists. Oh, I don't know what I just closed there. That wasn't meant to be closed. So, what are you guys saying? what I've seen of Hope Not Hate articles of my friend were glorified slander. Yeah, but of course, being supported by the Conservative Party.
There and showing up, frankly.
So this is what we're here to talk about. So Georgie Porgy, the Georgie Porgy Galloway, and this is Chris Williamson, former MP. I told you everybody's jumping ship and joining Georgie Porgy's Workers' Party. It's getting bigger and bigger. This is going to be massive for George. Chris Williamson's speech at the launch of the Birmingham Workers' Party local election 2020. I'm surprised the Workers' Party are not in North Shropshire, and I don't think they were at Old Bexley and Sidcup either, which I'm surprised that they're letting these by-elections go, which would give the Workers' Party a lot more publicity, even if Georgie Porgy had to stand in these.
George, this evening. However, I have received a bit of stick on social media. You may have seen it today, and I was reminded of what Tony Benn said.
Good camera work there.
When he was
nice ironed sign here behind
standing
him.
for the deputy leadership of the party in 1981. He said, I don't care what they call me. They can call me a Marxist, they can call me a Jesuit, they can call me a...
What about not very good?
flat earther, a Trotskyite, a vegetarian.
Yeah, that's pretty much how we think about you guys.
I don't care what they call me. The reason they call us names is...
100 million people have been murdered under communism.
They dare not face our argument. And I think...
I doubt that. Georgie Porgy's blocked me. Watch this, guys. If I can't face my argument, George blocked me on the mother of all talk shows. And let's just see George Galloway. I'm very worried about showing you Twitter because it's all full of naked people doing all sorts of interesting things. So George Galloway. So let's just see if we can actually handle it. George Galloway, people. George, have you blocked me? That's not the right one. Let's follow them. Neil Patterson. Where is George Galloway? So as you can see, George Galloway has officially blocked me. Right, oh, here it is there. At George Galloway. Ready? Blocked. You are blocked. It's him with his nice wife. Kids are doing well in school apparently. And that's, so let me just go back and just let you hear this so we can see the hypocrisy.
They dare not face our argument.
And let's see the reality. Oh, George, come on. Don't be shy. Now, I've invited George on the Guerilla TV channel. There was no issues. I like George on a personal level. Not got any political, do not get any professional or political problems with George either. But this is them not being able to substantiate their argument. But let's let them carry on. Let's keep going. It's always good for a laugh, these characters.
And I think that's absolutely true because the Workers' Party are actually putting an alternative narrative out there and showing up, frankly, the failings of the Labour Party.
I don't disagree with that.
Here in Birmingham, but not just here in Birmingham, really right across the country. And it is a great privilege to be sharing a platform with George. And George does get a lot of unfair stick. I hope he doesn't mind me saying that. But let's just, before we get into the discussion about the local government campaign, talk a little about George's record. I mean,
he's simp for every mass murdering, totalitarian, authoritarian despot all over the world.
George has a record which is unparalleled. I mean, he was an ANC activist, an undercover ANC, African National...
who are now calling for the deaths of white people in South Africa and killing and allowing white farmers to be murdered.
Congress activist at the height of apartheid in South Africa. That's incredible. That's incredible record. I think people know about George's unflinching solidarity with the Palestinian people and calling out the abuses of the Israeli state against the Palestinian people, is also a great advocate, of course, of the Latin American struggles, a real expert on that, speaking out in support of the Cuban people, in support of the Venezuelan people, in support
Every communist dictatorship, Georgie Porgy has been on their side.
of the Bolivian people, the Chilean people, right across the continent of...
The good thing for this young lady is that people in Venezuela have lost about 15, 20 pounds. I guess if you're not in the hierarchy of the communist dictatorship, they might still be eating, and so this young lady can substantiate her physique. But the average man and woman on the streets are losing between 12 and 18 pounds in weight, body weight, because they're starving in Venezuela.
Of Africa. And again, it's been a privilege of mine to share a platform with George at the Latin American conference in London on several different occasions. That's a tremendous record. And of course, George has also done a lot, I think, to debunk the anti-China propaganda. Another thing...
Debunk the biggest mass murdering political party in history, even larger than Stalin, larger than the National Socialists in Germany, the biggest, largest mass murdering political party in the world has ever known, and Georgie Porgy is backing them. Well, that's good to know, George, isn't it? At least we know where you stand, brother.
What's wrong with China, of course, but they've made incredible advances. You know,
this is the Diane Abbott of 50, 60 million people dead, but they've made some great advances. I think they've dropped economic Marxism for some sort of almost like fascist corporatism. I think, or maybe even a wee bit capitalist, from corporatism to a bit of because obviously left-wing economics doesn't work. And once they did that, they've gone from leaps and bounds. But when they were actually... So they're an authoritarian communist party with a corporatist or maybe slightly capitalist, but predominantly corporatist economics. So they're basically a fascist party. Whether it be National Socialism or fascism. Don't forget, fascism, the Fascist Party and the National Socialist Party are not the same. Fascist Party had 100,000 Jews in it, and the National Socialist Party were anti-Semitic. So these parties were not the same. There was also differences in policy. The Nazbols, National Bolshevik ideology, was a cross between communism and National Socialism. And I've been trying to get Carol Benjamin to have a look at this as well, because obviously Carol is brilliant at doing these analysis. And it'd be very interesting to have his insights into National Bolshevism, which is a hybrid of communism and National Socialism, as a postmodernist Marxism combined with identity politics is racist communism, Black Lives Matter, anti-white racism, calling everything white supremacy, blackness, capital B blackness and capital W whiteness, which means liberal democracies versus Marxist dictatorships, and that's what these Antifa, BLM, supported by these characters, Hope Not Hate, and why don't they just go over, why don't you just pack your stuff and go over and live in the communist country, and if it's that tickety-boo, go over there and live.
Virtually eliminated poverty in the country, certainly.
Eliminated poverty in the country? Oh, come on. Are you joking? Do you think we've not got YouTube? Do you not think we see the people, the workers falling asleep in the factories? We eliminated poverty by killing 60 million people.
Eliminated extreme poverty. Had a fantastic record in addressing, the climate crisis. Again,
they did a great job. 9 billion cubic tons of CO2 emissions. That guy from Extinction Rebellion said that it was all our emissions. It's not all our emissions. They've got 1 billion people living there. They are industrialising for themselves as well as other places outside. So they're the largest CO2 emitters. Although they have planted trees, as I've already addressed before. Yeah, I mean, really, they are the largest emitters. It's not going to matter if we become completely CO2 zero or zero CO2 emissions. It will not matter if that is a factor in global warming because of the amount of pollution China, India and the US actually emit, or the CO2 emissions that these three countries emit, because we are a minuscule fraction of that. Even if you include the worldwide, it's a minuscule fraction of what is being emitted.
China gets a lot of stick, and some of it's legitimate. I mean, they are commissioning new coal-fired power stations.
Oh, well, that's true, huh? The highest amount of CO2 by a country mile.
True, but they've done a tremendous amount.
No, they haven't. It's still 9 billion tonnes. It's still the largest.
Of work in terms of developing renewable energy. They've replanted much of the Chinese mainland. I think something like 23% now of China is now forest. And they have a plan, I think, by 2030 to make 30%, to reforest to 30% of the landmass there.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Will be forest. These are important things to be doing in terms of addressing the whole climate crisis. And so it's important, I think, that we set the record straight. Far too few people, it seems to me.
Forget the 60 million dead. Forget the Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps.
Prominent individuals in public life are prepared to actually set the record straight, and George is one of those who's never been
But Georgie Porgy is scared to talk to me, isn't he? Oh dear, 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 oh dear. I'm sure he'll make excuses for blocking me. I like him as well. I like talking to Georgie Porgy.
George's record, let's also acknowledge the fact that George has never been fearful.
But don't forget, I told you that up to 50 Labour MPs are actually thinking about joining these guys. This guy, I'll come on to Chris Williamson in a minute, who's a former MP, but there's also Corbyn. Well, we'll see what's happening with Corbyn as well. These are all going to potentially jump ship over to the Workers' Party.
About standing up for people who are under threat, who are being abused, and people like Julian Assange used his huge platform to speak out in support of Julian Assange, and to try and hold this country, this government's record in incarcerating Julian Assange. Is incredibly important, probably the world's most important journalist and truth teller, and George has used his platform to speak up for him, for Craig Murray, for me when I was under.
Well, I mean, I've spoke up for all these guys as well, to be honest with you. I think George follows who I'm speaking up for and then copies me. Obviously is a fan of the Guerilla TV channel. Hi, George.
Attack when I was being subjected to appalling abuse and then suspended from the Labour Party. George again used his platform almost on a weekly basis on his platform on the Mother of All talk shows. And of course,
which is very good. I enjoy the Mother of All talk shows, especially being on the Mother of All talk shows and talking to George until he banned me for me suggesting that Nicola Sturgeon may be a lesbian, and the fact is that she may be facilitating the decline in the Scottish population because she's obviously not produced any children herself. Allegedly, well, not allegedly, she's not produced any children. Allegedly, she's a lesbian who beats up her girlfriend, allegedly.
Spoke out very strongly in support of Jeremy Corbyn. And frankly, if Jeremy had listened to George's advice...
Come on, see, I told you. Told you, the old friendship's coming back. Georgie Porgy and Jeremy. And this could be the thing that galvanises the whole of the far left, loony left movement. And this could be Georgie Porgy's crowning achievement. If Jeremy, which we'll come on to in a minute, goes with Georgie Porgy, they could be up to 50, including Two Shoes, Two Left Feet, Diane Abbott, and a whole bunch of others jumping ship, councillors jumping ship, the youth jumping ship, everybody jumping ship to the Socialist Workers' Party.
Jeremy would now be in Downing Street. I would still be a Labour MP, and I'd like to think that George will be in the Labour fold, and we would be...
Aye, but it's now too late for that. You're here now, and you guys should have been in the old Bexley and Spend by-election. You guys did not field a candidate and not Spend, Bexley and Sidcup, and you should be in North Shropshire as well. You should be fielding candidates in these by-elections.
Be changing the country for the better, but sadly it wasn't to be. But our role, our task, I think, your task, all of our tasks, is to create a confidence in the working class community in particular, because, you know, people feel that politics has passed them by, that it doesn't
because you guys
really work, it's pointless who you vote for.
Yes. So you're the same guys that were in power. Now that you're out of power, you want to get back into power, okay.
The same, and they're right to think
But you're the same guys.
that as far as the mainstream political parties are concerned.
That's correct. But you guys were in the mainstream political parties.
And I think it's our job, it's your job, to try and instill a sense of solidarity, of confidence, that by standing together we can make a difference, we can turn things around, we can change society.
Yeah, you should definitely have good luck. And if Jeremy Corbyn joins the Workers' Party, it's going to be massive.
Change it for the better, create a good society. And local government, as Ruben has very eloquently outlined, is a great place to start, because there is so much that local government can do. I remember the halcyon days of what we used to refer to as municipal socialism, just up the road from where I live. In Derby, the Claycross rent rebels in the early 1970s took on the Heath government when they were insisting that they should be massively increasing council house rents, and they refused to do that. But if you actually look at their record, Claycross Council's record wasn't 20 or 30 years, I think it was, before it was brought in. But Snatcher took away the milk from the kids. If I could say that as a vegan, I think I prefer beef to soy milk.
That's probably why it looks all that skinny and good to me.
But they found a way, using innovative solutions to find a way around those strictures that were being imposed upon them. And I recommend, if you get a chance, if you just, when you go home this evening or over the weekend, to just Google Claycross Council, Austin Mitchell, if you put something like that in, because he did a wonderful documentary when he was, they were really highlighting the battle against the Ted Heath government at the time. And then they went into some of the detail about some of these other wonderful, innovative ideas that they were bringing to the fore at a local government level. And of course, those sorts of things are replicated really across the country. You know, I'm sure everybody will remember the Greater London Council and some of the wonderful things that they did. Ted Knight, I had a privilege to meet him a few years before he died, who led Lambeth Council. Incredible work that they were doing. In my own local authority, Derbyshire County Council, before I was a councillor, I was very active in the local county Labour Party, led by a chap called David de Bookbinder. And again, they were doing some innovative, amazing things, using the powers available to them at a local level to actually make a difference for people on the ground. Because what's the point of having a platform if you're not going to use it?
It's about communism.
Might as well not be in power. Well, they're not really in power. They're in office, but not in power. All they are doing, all Labour is offering. And I was making this point when I was on the front bench for the Labour Party when I was an MP, and it was one of the reasons why I stepped down from the front bench, because all we were offering, all the Labour Party was offering, was to manage the Tory cuts
Can't do it.
better than the Tories were. Well, that ain't no way of inspiring people. That's no platform at all. And I was putting forward a proposition, which I want to put to you tonight, for a redistributive council tax. We've heard about the use of reserves. £500 million in reserves in Birmingham. What on earth are they doing, sitting on that amount of reserves when they're making cuts, when they're seeing people living in appalling circumstances? It's an absolute scandal and outrage. Whatever colour, whatever stripe is in power, but for it to be of the Labour Party, for God's sake, it's absolutely outrageous. And the front bench, the local government front bench said, oh no, we can't possibly do this, we can't be increasing council tax for people in that way. And yet when you explained it to people, when I spoke to journalists even about it, they said, well, this is Corbynomics in action at a local level, isn't it? And I was then told by people in Jeremy's office that Jeremy's furious about this, he wants to see you. I went to see Jeremy. Of course, Jeremy Corbyn doesn't particularly get furious. It's a pity he doesn't get furious with some of the right-wingers in the Parliamentary Labour Party, but I explained...
So this is what's his face? Sir Keir Starmer, the guy in the Bilderberg group, corporatist globalist shill, who's seen as a Tony Blair light, right winger, social democrat, has now really torpedoed all the left wing, getting rid of them. I told you they were starting to do that. Zara Sultana, who was scared about masks to sit beside people, yet the mobos cuddling and kissing people. This guy has been pushed out, and there's more and more going to be pushed out, and I believe that more and more people are leaving the Labour Party. Eventually, see if I can get the fetus eaters. Where's my friends at the fetus eaters? Stand up against. Right, hold on. Let me see. This is quite funny. What are you guys saying? Let me just get a wee quick chat with you guys. When I see I hope no higher. Yeah, okay, you guys, I'm up to date with that. Let's see the fetus eaters. They had some great stuff just now. Wait a minute. Lotus eaters. Where is the guys? Oh, this is it. This is it. This is so funny. So this just shows you. This just shows you what's going on. And
yes, you've noticed, haven't you? The price of everything seems to be going up and going up very, very quickly.
Vote Labour.
This is what's happening in the Labour Party. The absolute omni shambles that is the Labour Party.
Labour. New strategy, new slogan. Don't vote Labour. That's the slogan. So this is the first link here, if we get it up, which is the Norfolk Labour Party website. This site, like the rest of Labour, is not working anymore.
And that's why they're all potentially going to jump ship.
And then if you scroll down on this, they say, vote Green Party. The Labour Party under Starmer is finished. He lied to get elected leader and is backtracking on all pledges he gave at the time. He can't be trusted any more than Johnson can.
So this isn't the official Labour Party site for Mid-Norfolk?
This is.
This is, so what, has it been hacked?
Yeah, so apparently someone who was inside the party who ran the whole thing was just like, well, I'm leaving, and also I'm going to take the website down with me.
Oh, it's like the fat guy in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, so we go to the next one. This is the reporting on it, and in here they have Michael Rosen, the chair of Mid-Norfolk Labour Party, who said, this site is currently under the control of some...
And you'd let these guys run the country?
Somebody who is not a member of the Labour Party anymore. We are working hard to get this domain name back under the control of the Labour Party. We will be setting up our own Mid-Norfolk Labour Party site once we've done that. What we don't want is two sites that confuse people.
Oh, I love this.
This site is like the rest of Labour is not working anymore.
Confuse people. Like, this site isn't confusing people, and this shows like how diligent and rigorous Labour's attitude to business continuity and actually running the country would be if they don't even have control of their own website. How are they going to...
Leo Hurst is a fantastic commentator and also comedian. He's very funny. I think he stood for the Reclaim Party as well in Scotland.
Run a massive modern Western country's infrastructure.
You'd think they'd have like some procedures in place. I mean, like...
Yeah, you'd think basic procedures.
When I was with UKIP, they had procedures in place for even like Facebook pages.
Yeah.
Never mind the website for the whole region.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolute joke.
Anyway, so he said that the former member was one among a number of people who have recently chosen to leave the party because they are bleeding members like there's no tomorrow. Mr. Rousden said he absolutely wanted to state his disagreement with the message on the website. I thought you'd agree with it, but okay. He says, we actually think that Labour's on a really positive trajectory, he said. Really, though? Who believes this?
Well, I kind of believe it. I mean, Keir Starmer's sort of more of a return to the...
and Leo, you started waffling there about nonsense, unfortunately, although I do like Leo.
It to him, and I made the point to Jeremy that, look, we're offering nothing, because Jeremy went through a long list of things that Labour were planning to do in government, like land value tax and things like that. And I said,
I just want to steal our money so you can spend it in shit. That's what the Labour Party do.
It's all wonderful, Jeremy, but it's all jam tomorrow. You need a Labour government before we can do that, and I support those plans that you're putting forward. But what are we offering right now? What are we saying to people in these upcoming local elections in a few months' time, as it was then? What are we offering them? Nothing. And in the end, I decided to step down from the front bench and continue to make that argument. But not a solitary Labour group has taken this forward. And even the Labour group on the Local Government Association wrote round to every single Labour group leader in the country to say the Williamson plan won't work. Well, there's no such thing as a Williamson plan because there's 1,001 permutations of how you can apply that differential council tax proposition. We came up with an idea for how it might be implemented in Derby, which they didn't do, sadly. And then they applied that across the whole country and said, well, look, you could raise more finance, you could raise more money at a local level through the council tax.
We can steal your money and spend it on whatever we choose to spend it on.
Cap, which has been set by the Secretary of State at the time.
Would you trust these idiots with your money?
Than this so-called Williamson plan. But what they didn't say is, of course, that would have hit everybody because council tax is an incredibly regressive tax because it hurts those people who can least able
All tax is hurtful
to afford it than it does those at the top who are the wealthiest. And for anybody...
So that means, so we're both on the same page, so we should cut tax, so that's correct. You're almost getting there, your brain is almost getting to the stage where you're not the best arbitrator of spending other people's money.
Who was concerned about somebody who was asset rich but cash poor? If you say, well, we want to have a big increase in council tax, how are they, often they put forward a kind of stereotypical little old widow who has got this big house but is on a very restricted income. Well, you can have a much more generous council tax support scheme. In fact, you could use the additional council tax that you raised to provide a more generous council tax support scheme across the piece. Because don't forget what the Tories did some years ago.
Well, is there any way to take your money?
They scrapped the social fund, which was a massive cut compared to what previously went before it, which was a single payment scheme under the old supplementary benefit rules, where people who fell on difficult times and had an emergency, they could apply. Very often people would end up having to get loans from the state. Well, even that's gone now, and it's been devolved down to local government, but without the resources to follow it. But that's a way, isn't it, of engaging with people in the local issues of the day, the local issues facing the local authority, and engaging people.
So he's more worried about local authority rather than the individual, whereas I'm more worried about the individual than the local authority.
In local government decisions. And saying, well, where do you think we should be investing more? Should it be
in the individual, in the entrepreneur who will generate the wealth, employ people, and they will actually then in turn generate wealth for the country? That's how you raise the taxes, because you would increase the growth. I don't understand how I have to explain simple economics to an ex-MP.
In social care or in leisure, or a combination of those things? Should it be in improving the street scene, or a combination of those things? But giving people the chance to have a say. And I think that's something that I hope that Workers' Party candidates, when they get elected, can put forward this idea and look at it and consult with people, because at the end of the day it has to be agreed by the If it's possible. Now, there used to be a cap on something called the housing revenue account, which limited the amount of money that a local authority was able to borrow to invest in new housing. Now,
why is the council building housing anyway? And all of the housing that you've built over the years has been substandard, and a lot of it's getting knocked down because the state has actually, and the local councils have built it. All the high flats in Glasgow are going postmodernist, absolute eyesores. You guys have absolutely no taste in architecture or anything else. You should not be building anything. I'm not saying not to have social housing. I'm just saying that the council should not be building it.
Housing for a long time before I became the leader, and then obviously got elected to Parliament. But for all that time, much of that time, not all of it, but all of that time I was campaigning for the cap to be removed from the housing revenue account. But for much of that time, we had a Labour government. They wouldn't do it. And it's the Tories, the bloody Tories that have done it. It's unbelievable. So there's no impediment now on local authorities. Yeah, and they argue.
Well, I guess if you're having mass immigration, it's beneficial for them to remove it, because the Tories are just pumping in people left, right and centre.
Oh yes, but of course, the right to buy is still in place. But then the discounts...
Not in Scotland, it's not.
Right to buy don't come in until 15 years And then it starts as a process. Well, hopefully, I'd like to think that by that time we will have been able to address that and maybe got rid of the right to buy.
All right, so then you can only rent, and then you're dependent on the state. Nah, no thanks.
And replaced it with a different system.
Yeah, get the Labour Party out and the commies.
There's no impediment now, and I think what we need to be doing is obviously not just getting people in and elected, etc., and making this case in the town hall. We need to be mobilising people on the ground. We need to be mobilising communities, working class communities, so that they're aware of the powers which are available to local government, which they're not using.
But that means that you're then dictating through your local government what you're doing with my money that's generated through taxes.
Knowledge is power, isn't it? And if we can get
if you had any, it'd be dangerous.
A grassroots movement saying to the local authority, and hopefully it's a Workers' Party-led authority, so it won't be a problem. But let's assume that it's not. But if we can build a movement where people are rising up and saying, we're not going to take this anymore. There's no excuse for people sleeping on the street. There's no excuse for people...
Well, if you open immigration and there's a limited number of council houses or low accommodation houses, and you're just saying that people who are walking in should be entitled to one, then you're then putting people on the streets. Because there's it takes a while to actually build a house, doesn't it?
Accommodation. You cannot use the excuse that there are cuts, that there are limits on our ability to manoeuvre now, because there are no limits on their ability to manoeuvre. And they might say, well, we haven't got the workers, the skilled workers available to build the council houses. Well, recruit them then.
Well, why is the state building houses? Back to why do you not just the public sector usually does it better?
So they should be able to be recruiting people. So you know it's a win-win situation. You're addressing a social need.
So the social need by the open door immigration policy is then causing you to take money to address that need from the individual. So you're creating the demand by open door immigration and then taking other people's money to fulfil that demand, where you're dictating what type of houses that are being built and also dictating that these people or any person can actually buy the house to actually progress. None of your policies are desirable or something that I would want in the first place.
You're actually generating decent jobs for people as well.
All right, so if you're not in the building trade, how are you generating a job for me? You're basically taking money off me so that you can then decide what companies and what buildings should be built. Why is the state dictating that? That should be down to the state.
Training opportunities for young people. Look, I mean, I was used to be hard to believe these soft hands used to lay bricks, but I trained as a bricklayer, you know. And it's a decent, steady job. I mean, there are many other occupations, of course, in the building industry. So you're giving people secure, well...
But why don't you fund the entrepreneurs and they then create the wealth? Why is it that you, through the state, through taking other people's money, should be dictating where the money is going? As far as I'm concerned, the state is the worst provider of resources.
Reasonably well-paid employment too. And you're providing a much lower cost alternative to the crappy private rented accommodation.
I've seen much better rented accommodation in the private sector than the public sector.
People are trapped in private rented accommodation.
But you want them trapped in public rented accommodation. You just said that they will not have the right to buy. So you want to take away that right so that they then have security. Because at any time they could be kicked out your public sector housing without the actual security of actually having the right to buy on it.
Paying ridiculously high rents because the private rented sector was deregulated by the Tory government in 1989, and George was an MP at the time, I believe, and I'm sure will remember the debate, and there was a lot of opposition to it from Labour MPs on the benches. Some really good speeches were made. But then you look at the 1992 manifesto, there was no commitment to actually regulate private rented accommodation. There was no commitment in the 1997 manifesto to buy properties on the open market. They can buy properties in the way in which they used to do. The government was the first monetarist, the first neoliberal government in have been scrapped over the intervening 40 years or so since Thatcher came in 1979, although the impetus for that was started when Dennis Healey went to the International Monetary Fund in 1976. That Labour government was the first monetarist, the first neoliberal government in reality. So
Because the Labour Party had destroyed the economy.
I think what we are about is creating a dream.
The dream for you, it's the dream for the empowerment of you as a wee mini dictator to dictate what sort of houses people should stay in. It's all about you dictating to everybody else, not empowerment of the individual, it's the empowerment of you as the arbitrator of resources, the stealing of other people's money through taxation, for you to decide what's actually happening.
Making sure that we can fulfil that dream. People have dreams, don't they, you know?
Yeah, my dream is not to give you money so that you can build houses for other people. That's not my dream. While at the same time enforcing that I can only rent a house, never buy it. A house that I paid through taxation, tax the build in the first place.
People have dreams for their kids, a better life, a decent job, security, you know? And it was Martin Luther King who once said that they
don't vote Labour or the Workers' Party.
They can kill the dreamer, but they can't kill the dream.
So the dream is for me to pay more council tax so you can build houses. That's the dream, while I can only rent it and never purchase it. So I would be completely at your will as the arbiter or the owner of the property that I paid the taxes to actually build in the first place, so that you build the house and I pay you to actually then decide whether or not I can actually rent it. No thanks.
And whilst they might have killed the dreamer in the sense of they've destroyed the Corbyn project, and that was a dream for a lot of people.
Told you Corbyn's coming in here. Corbyn's going to join very soon. When do you see this?
We're still here, aren't we? The Workers' Party's now been created. There are other movements which are emerging. And I think we need to find a way of pulling people together outside the Labour Party, maybe some who are still in the Labour Party, to realise that unless we stand together in...
Told you up to 50 MPs, councillors all over the UK are going to jump ship because obviously Starmer is basically Tony Blair light, a Bilderberger, globalist shill, corporatist globalist shill, and the hard left are going to jump ship and have a presence in the Parliament that are going to be in part of Georgie Porgy's Worker Party.
Solidarity, unless we build a mass movement, we are not going to make the changes which are desperately required in this country. Because look, the establishment are incredibly powerful. They've got loads of brass. That's why they're powerful. And I used to always say this to people on the doorstep. If ever they would say, oh, well, you know, it's these migrants' fault. And I say, lift your eyes above the horizon, mate.
Well, I do agree, it's the elite that's allowing the migrant crisis to happen. It's them that are doing it. I do agree with that, but you guys wouldn't be doing anything different.
It's not the migrants. You've got more in common. I remember saying this to a BNP supporter, believe it or not. You've got more in common
Did he join the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn?
with asylum seekers and the people at the top of the society.
Well, I think a lot of them are fake refugees because obviously the Conservative Party have signed us up to the Barcelona process, the Union of the Mediterranean and the UN Treaty on Refugees in Marrakesh.
The big corporations, the establishment, the very self-same corporations that are behind the wars and the exploitation, which is forcing people to seek refuge in this country.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. So the globalists are doing that. That's correct. But the Labour Party are part of the globalist. Keir Starmer's part of the globalist underlying agenda anyway. So it's just one versus the other, isn't it? So it's two cheeks of the same asshole, as Georgie Porgy would say.
Let's link arms in solidarity, stand together in solidarity and demand change. And when we
So the far left are like the idiot child of the globalists, because these are actually globalists as well. These are like the idiots, the bastard idiot child of the globalists, and they can get controlled by the actual overlying globalists as well. They're like the smokescreen. Oh, join us, we are different. But in fact, the actual far left, same in America, if you look at Antifa fighting against, and in Australia, the Antifa are actually fighting against the anti-vaxxers, because the state is mandating the fact that these people should be taking vaccines. But Antifa is going on behalf of the state, and these guys, Antifa, are meant to be anarcho-syndicalists, anarcho-communists, and these guys are actually then going out to protest the anti-vaxxers, who are like the rebels, in favour of the state. That's the Antifa. They're actually the shills of the state, both in America and in Australia. So Antifa are probably controlled opposition.
Do that, comrades. We are incredibly...
So he's saying comrades, which is obviously another communist word.
Powerful, because together anything is possible.
Georgie Porgy. So a lot of people are jumping ship, joining Georgie Porgy. So this is this gentleman, this is who's talking. Christopher Williamson, born 16th of September 1956. Is a British politician who was the Member of Parliament in Derby North in 2010 to 2015, and from 2017 to 2019. I don't know what the break was for. He was a Shadow Minister for Communities and Local Government from October 2010 to October 2013. He was previously a local councillor in Derby, representing the Normanton ward from 1991 until 2011, serving twice as leader of Derby City Council. In February 2019, Wilson was notified of a formal investigation and later suspended from Labour for his comments about the party's response to criticism over its handling of allegations of anti-Semitism within the party. And now they've got Sarwar in Scotland, who follows an anti-Semitic religion, in charge as well. After the investigation, Williamson was reinstated in June 2019 with a formal warning. But the resuspended 2 days later when the party decided to review the disciplinary decision. So, I mean, I told you he's a heavy hitter. This is a guy that's had been in a ministerial post. So I told you Georgie Porgy was attracting more people. Here we go. So what else have we got? Unite to slash Labour donations as union says party must do more for workers. So I've heard it in good authority that Unite are actually thinking about joining the Workers' Party and actually cutting ties with the Labour Party. Some of the communists from Nevada Media, which is a communist outlet that have killed 100 million people, that they know this, and they were getting a bit salty. I don't know if I can. Let me see if I can get it up here. Let's go on there. Narvada Media Unite. Oh no, that's not it. Where is it? Let's try this. Where is it? Nirvana Where is this? Oh, I can't find this. That's how annoying is that? Wonder if it's here. Oh. I think that's us.
Welcome to Tisky Sour.
Norvara. I don't know what that is. Something strange. Anyway, where's Unite? We're getting a bit salty about this. Oh no, they were actually quite liking it because obviously these guys. Here we go, yeah, we're getting a bit salty about this. Here we go, here's the communists.
96% of businesses fail, while only 4% of businesses actually succeed.
Labour's biggest funder, Unite the Union, have announced they are cutting political donations to the party. The union will remain affiliated to Labour and so pay their £1 million affiliation fee, but no additional funding will be granted. That's a break from tradition in recent years. Explaining the move, General Secretary Sharon Graham told The Guardian, "There's a lot of other money that we use from our political fund where actually I'm not sure we're getting the best value for it."
So as far as I'm aware, and I've been led to believe that Unite are thinking about joining Georgie Porgy's party and taking the money out of the Labour Party, and that's going to be a massive big bonus for George that Sharon Graham and Unite are going to start giving money to Georgie Porgy.
So that's Graham saying the extra cash Unite has been giving to Labour from its political fund is not value for money. Basically, they're not getting enough in return. Graham goes on to explain her alternative strategy, and the Guardian write this up in the following way. Graham said she would instead put money into campaigns that would set the pace for Labour to follow. She pointed to the Scottish Government's proposals for a national care service reforming social care as an example of a cause that Unite would campaign for in the hope of influencing UK-wide policy. Quote, "If we can get in a national care service in Scotland, if we can drive that through, then let's put the resource in Scotland. Let's get some campaigning going on there properly." The fact that I am being quite robust is because Labour needs to talk about workers, needs to defend workers, and needs to defend communities. Aaron, do you think this is a good move from Sharon Graham?
Deeply good move, very clever move, appropriate move, justified move.
So this guy's a communist, self-confessed.
If you look at the Labour...
100 million people have died.
The party's sort of position...
Been murdered.
On union disputes recently. And look, the leadership isn't as right-wing as Blair was regarding this stuff, although I think it's going to be eventually. If you look at, for instance, Keir Starmer, literally 12 months ago, where was he? Well, more than 12 months ago, February 2020, before he was really elected leader even. Where was he? He was on UCU picket lines, happy to be supporting UCU, striking workers. Now he can't even muster a tweet. Now you could say, well, look, he's the leader of the Labour Party. He shouldn't be doing that. You can make that argument.
I've had enough of these characters anyway. What are you guys saying? Same to hear. SNP are more. Oh, you guys are very quiet. The SNP are more chance of UK power than the Starmer Muppets. Yeah. Just because, why is that all redacted, Teresa? I don't understand unless you're taking the message out. Just because we are working class does not mean we are communists. Start your own communist party and leave the working class alone. I'm from the working class, Malcolm. As well, so my great grandfather was a plater in the Clyde, and both my grandparents were textile workers, so I already know what the working class is. Culling the poor is not eliminating poverty. Exactly. Like the kids said. Oh, have you guys been commenting? I've not been seeing this. Let me just get this front and centre. Can I pull this down? Why is that not? Why all Jesus is redacted. Anyway, I will crack on. So, let's get rid of the communists. Georgie Porgy. So, unite to slash the nation. So, I think, so as far as I'm aware, they're going to start, although they're saying they're going to put it in ways of actually campaigning to be able to steal more of your taxpayers' money and weaken the society, because obviously they want to take your taxpayers' money and spend it on whatever stuff that increases the size of the state, which makes us all poorer. Unite to slash labour donations, as union says, party must do more for workers. All right, I see. That's why I think Georgie Porgy might be joining. So this is from The Independent, Emily Aitkinson. There's Keir Starmer looking, terrible. Unite has decided to slash its funding for the Labour Party, as the union officially says the party needs to talk about and defend workers, just like Georgie Porgy's doing. So, as I said to you, this is the big thing that's going to happen. So there's been obviously big fight. Steptoe and the Bilderberger are at war. The loony left communists versus the corporatist globalist shill are obviously splitting up, and a big split down the middle. Corbyn may stand as an independent if Labour do not restore the whip. So as far as I'm aware, Corbyn's not going to stand as an independent. He's going to join the Workers' Party, and he's going to get back with his old mate Georgie Porgy Galloway. And him and Georgie Porgy Galloway are then going to actually then take on the Labour Party. And a lot of other people, a lot of other MPs are also then going to actually join the Workers' Party on the back of that. So there'll already be a split in the Labour Party. The far left are going to go and join the Workers' Party. A lot of councillors are going to join the Workers' Party. And it's really going to take off. Corbyn may stand as an independent if Labour do not restore the whip. Supporters believe former leader could win in Islington North after Keir started for the Workers' Party. Remember, told you this is the big announcement. Once Steptoe joins the Workers' Party, a lot of the grassroots will then switch from the Labour Party to the Workers' Party. So we're going to see this two-party approach now that a lot of these older politicians have been jumped ship. So Starmer is going to lose the left. He's trying to push them out anyway because they're all absolutely crazy. Supporters believe former Labour could win in Islington North after Keir Starmer suggests he's not eligible to run for Labour but is eligible to run for the Workers' Party, from Heather Stewart and Haroon Sadiq, whoever it is. Jeremy Corbyn supporters expect him to stand as an independent in North Islington at the next general election if he is not allowed to represent the Labour Party, and believes he would have a good chance of winning for the Georgie Porgy Galloway's Workers' Party. Keir Starmer has said Corbyn, his predecessor as a Labour leader, may not be able to stand as a Labour candidate in the constituency he has represented since 1983 unless he joins the Labour Party, unless the party whip is restored after it was suspended amid row over anti-Semitism. With it, but this would be a massive campaign for Steptoe to become the first Workers' Party representative, but Jeremy Corbyn will have a new lease of life about him when he joins up with George, and that will increase the size exponentially of the Workers' Party, because a lot of people will then jump ship. Don't forget, Steptoe made the Labour Party into a mass movement. He actually had made it a mass movement. With general elections unlikely until 2023, no decision has been taken by Steptoe to join Georgie Porgy's Workers' Party, but backers now expect him to follow the example of Ken Livingstone, who was a bit mean about Georgie Porgy, but Ken should actually also join the Workers' Party as well. He should definitely join that. He would be another great addition to the Workers' Party, and Georgie Porgy should be putting out feelers to all these people. Although Ken was a bit disparaging about George actually creating the Workers' Party, which is a great idea. It's been a great idea for him to do. Who stood as Labour MP in 2000 despite not having been selected to run for Labour. So all these guys are getting pushed out by the Social Democrats. They think they're a bit sort of wacky, but if all these wacky people are in the same party, they don't look as wacky. So that's why Ken should definitely join Georgie Porgy. Corbyn won the seat with 63.4% of the vote in 2019 and thumping majority of 26,188. I would hate to see the people that live in North Islington. His supporters believe he would be able to win despite having had the party whip removed and now potentially going to join George Galloway's party, and would likely be joined in the campaign by members who have drifted away from the Labour Party under Starmer's leadership and who are going to join the Workers' Party with George Galloway. On Friday, Starmer said he has not spoken to Corbyn in more than a year, but I think George is in contact with him, and repeated his insistence that the ball was in his predecessor's court when it came to having the whip restored. Asked whether it is likely Corbyn would be able to stand as a Labour MP, Starmer replies, "I don't know, but at the moment that may be the case." Speaking on the BBC, so this is a big rift because Corbyn's still popular amongst the left-wing grassroots, brought in hundreds of people, thousands of people into, largest 500,000 people were in the Labour Party, and if he transfers that dynamism to Georgie Porgy's party, it's going to take off. As well as councillors, as well as MPs, as well as the grassroots, as well, just the youth as well, they are going to find it better in the Workers' Party. It's up to him. He knows what he's doing in order to move this forward. He's not chosen to do so. That's his choice. The Labour leader said he and Corbyn have not spoken together since the publication of the Qualities and Human Rights Commission report into anti-Semitism in the party in October 2020, which George is not interested. Steptoe is not bothered about, because as Count Dankula said, they've changed, the Labour Party changed the definition on anti-Semitism. Corbyn was suspended from the Labour Party after he said anti-Semitism in the party was overstated following the publication of the report. His suspension was lifted by the party national executive after he issued a conciliatory statement clarifying his remarks, but Starmer ordered that the Labour whip be withheld from him. In effect suspending him from the parliamentary party. The Labour leader refusal to readmit Corbyn as an MP prompted a furious backlash from left-wingers. Diane Abbott going to jump ship to Georgie Porgy, John McDonnell jumping ship, Richard Burgon may stay, apparently, who accused Starmer of jeopardising party unity. Corbyn has been threatening legal action over Starmer's decision. He believes his suspension was handled unfairly and was the object of political interference. Court backlogs mean it may be some time before the case is heard if he does proceed. I think he's going to skip that and just go straight with Georgie Porgy. In January, Corbyn lost a legal fight to force Labour to hand over documents that his lawyers believe would help him show that an agreement to fully readmit him to the party following his suspension had been reneged upon. Labour denied in court that any such deal existed. Starmer, who repeatedly promised during the leadership campaign to tackle anti-Semitism, also the political thinking, he hoped Lucia Berger, a Jewish MP who left the party over its handling of anti-Semitism cases during Corbyn's tenure. Obviously, she got papped out for joining the illiberal, liberal, undemocratic Democrats, who, I think before that, the Cook Party would want to rejoin. So that's from the Guardian. Yeah. Jeremy Corbyn. Let's see this one. This is from the Independent. Jeremy Corbyn may not be allowed to stand as a Labour MP. I don't think we'll reiterate all of that. Basically what the Guardian said. The former Prime Minister will come in a forward to report suggesting Labour will need a larger vote swing to win the next election than was seen during Mr Blair's landslide victory in 1997. The party former leader said that the lurch to the far left will never be electorally successful. Well, George Galloway is going to prove them wrong. Following, and Wee Nippy is a loony left postmodernist Marxist, following the party's defeats in 1983 and 2019 elections, and urged Starmer to continue to bring party back to the middle ground, which is why all of the 50 MPs are going to jump ship to the Workers' Party and unite, and the councillors and everybody else. Georgie Porgy is about to be set up big time, and Steptoe, if Steptoe goes, all the rest will go, and it'll be a massive boost for Georgie Porgy. They need to get Steptoe back in into the Workers' Party. If and when that happens, the Workers' Party will take off. The party culture problem with many working class voters, as well as a credibility problem with those in the centre of the political spectrum, from news to politics, travel to sport, culture to climate. The Independent has a host of free newsletters to suit your interest to find the stories. Oh, right, what am I reading that for? Jeremy Corbyn will not return as a Labour MP, says Keir Starmer. 18th of November 2020. This is exactly why he's going to jump ship. Jeremy Corbyn will not sit as a Labour MP in the Commons, Sir Keir Starmer says. So this is the major split, because Jeremy Corbyn is immortalised amongst the loony left, and he is now going to jump ship to the Workers' Party. The former leader was reinstated as a member of the party on Tuesday, having been suspended over his response to Human Rights Watchdog's report on anti-Semitism. Don't forget the three ideologies in the Labour Party: Islamism, anti-Semitic; communism, which is anti-Semitic; and National Socialism, which is a lot of ex-BNP members in the Labour Party, anti-Semitic. So all of these ideologies that are in the Labour Party are all anti-Semitic. Postmodernist Marxism, just anti-white. anti-white racism. So, but former Shadow Chancellor and close ally of Mr Corbyn, John McDonnell, said the move was just plain wrong and would cause more divisions and disunity in the party. And while many Labour MPs have supported the decision, 28 and 4 peers have signed a statement, including McDonnell, calling for a swift reversal. So these are maybe 28. I've heard a figure up to 50 far left MPs would actually jump ship. The Socialist Campaigning Group, so the Socialist Workers, which Georgie Porgy is going to be setting up, which include a number of Mr Corbyn's former shadow cabinet, said the move was wrong and damaging for the Labour Party. So, as you can see there, he's not getting back in. Old Steptoe's not getting back in. And it's teed up for him joining. It's absolutely teed up for him joining the Labour Party, the Workers' Party. The Guardian view on the by-election test. So this is from The Guardian. Voters should back the Liberal Democrats. So The Guardian are obviously... I don't know what The Guardian are, but The Guardian's view on the by-election test, so this was 11 hours ago, on probably about the 6th of December 2021. Incompetence, dishonesty and sleaze has seen Boris Johnson's polling suffer. His Conservative Party appears to be losing ground to the Liberal Democrats. But now the Conservative voters don't have to do that. They can now vote for UK Reform Party, which have got a lot better policies than the liberal undemocratic Democrats. In North Shropshire, where a by-election will be held next week, there's a suggestion that some Tory viewers view Sir Ed Davies' party as a refuge. No, they don't. They don't. Especially that candidate. That candidate that looked atrocious as well. So I think a lot of them are going to jump to the UK Reform Party. I think we're going to see that lady get a massive return. I think now, between the liberal, undemocratic Democrats and the UK Reform Party, more people are going to start jumping to the UK Reform Party than the liberals. This was certainly the case when in June the Liberal Democrats won a stunning Berwickshire by-election by losing a Leave voting rural constituency would be a bigger earthquake and send shock waves through the Conservative Party. I think I don't know if the UK Reform Party would make that big a shock, but it'd be a bigger shock if UK Reform actually won rather than the Liberals. Even if the Liberal Democrats came close, the result would send a shiver up the spine of Tory MPs. This is why North Shropshire's Labour voters ought to set aside their tribal loyalties and back the UK Reform Party. The Liberals. Mr Johnston's contemptuous attitude to accountability needs to be checked. A loss in North Shropshire would stop the government in its tracks, or would be better probably actually if it was a UK Reform candidate that got in. Mr Johnston's disgraceful cavalier attitude to the Commons rules in the reason that there is by-election taking place at all. If the Prime Minister had not attempted to tear up the system of parliamentary oversight to prevent the suspension of his friend Owen Paterson, North Shropshire then MP, the party, and nothing's really talked about the MP that was stabbed by the Muslim in his surgery. The party would not be in this fight. A by-election defeat next week would probably have a dramatic effect on government policy. The last one led to a rethink on Tory planning proposals. If the Conservatives lose next week, they will have no one to blame but themselves. Correct? They knew Mr Johnson's flaws all too well, having been behind him while the going was good. The Prime Minister's failure to deliver his red wall promises, a calamity Peppa Pig speech to industry and public disgust at Number 10's Christmas party last year, despite COVID restrictions, has rendered Mr Johnson increasingly vulnerable to determined rebels on his own backbenches. Channel crossings will also make the Tories nervous that the party will emerge that will be outflanked on the right. Well, I don't know if it's on, well, it probably is on the right, because it seems like woke, postmodernist, Marxist, Conservative Party, Green, that Boris is more left-wing than some of the people on the left. It cannot be a good thing for British politics for this to happen. However, the rise of the Reform Party provokes the existential fear that Mr Johnson was meant to banish. Exactly. So, unfortunately, Mr Johnson, or the Prime Minister, should we say, is now Bojo, is more left-wing than the Labour Party. So I don't know how he's definitely going to be outflanked by probably I would say a centre-right or even a centrist UK Reform Party with Nice Guy Eddie. Opposition parties don't have to enter formal pacts for their supporters to opt for candidates best placed to dislodge the Tories. Opposition parties don't have to enter formal pacts for their supporters to opt for the candidate best placed to dislodge the Tories. The tactic agreement between Labour and progressive parties. None of these parties are progressive, they're all regressive. Parties in out of London by-election last week was encouraging the Tories held the seat, but there was a swing to Labour. Great. Well, you want to see the actual Lundballs that are on the Labour front benches now. There are Labour people who will never forgive the illiberal Liberals for their coalition with the Tories, and there are Liberal Democrats who will never forgive the Labour Party for the invasion of Iraq. Yet how it is better for Labour backers to let the Conservatives keep their parliamentary majority instead of increasing the number of Liberal Democrats at the Tories' expense. The Liberal Democrats came second in 80 seats. Where is that? 80 seats in England in 2019. Without the Liberal Democrats' revival, Labour had no serious prospect of being in power. I know, but they've got a ridiculously small amount of the vote share, only 9%. In fact, the UK Reform Party's probably going to creep up into third place, I would suspect. With that last one, with Richard Tice, at the old Bexley and Sid Cup by-election, getting nearly 7%, beating the illiberal Liberals and the Greens combined. Progressive ought to be embracing strategic voting with a vengeance next week to weaken Mr Johnson's position. Well, you can see who it's the Guardian again. So what are you guys saying? Is you guys speaking to me? Whoa, there we go. Damn it, got to go. Keep up the good work, brother. Thanks, Danny, good man. He's wasn't called the Red Ken for nothing. He's only looking to keep his MP wage. He doesn't give a hoot about the working class. Step two, well, I used to call Corbyn that. You just noticed. SNP have more chance of UK power than Starmer. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Yeah. So, what are we on to just now? Oh, that's very interesting. So, Muslims that follow a prophet who had sex slaves and 9 wives and had sex with children are now Sweden. This is 22nd of August 2018 from the BBC. Sweden rape most convicted attackers foreign-born, says TV. Oh well, that's better watch yourself, ladies. From the feminist government that's brought in. So the feminist government have brought in a lot of men who follow an ideology that says it's okay to rape women. You can write it. About 58% of men convicted in Sweden of rape and attempted rape over the last 5 years were born abroad, according to data from the Swedish national TV. Public Broadcasting, SVT, said it had counted all court convictions to present and public pictures in Sweden, but Sweden has thousands more reported rapes, and there is no ethnic breakdown of these. All right, so the feminist government don't want to tell the females in Sweden that the people that they've imported, because they're a bunch of communists, are now raping Swedish women in staggering consistency, just like in Rotherham and everything else that the globalists have covered up and allowed the rape of children all over the UK as well by the open door immigration policy. So let's have a look at this. So there's Hamza Yusuf, actually a member of the child rapist death cult there. Oh, there he is complaining about Indians. So a Pakistani gentleman complaining about Indians owning a nursery, but still blaming Whitey. So let's have a look at this. So this gentleman here, how cruel of us to provide a Highland home when there is a brand new flats in Glasgow being built. I'd rather risk beheaded by the Taliban than live in Wick, which is in Scotland. A&E performance worse since SNP came to power under Hamza Yusuf. So Hamza Yusuf looking at Nicola Sturgeon because she's a lesbian and thinking this is haram. We have got an alleged lesbian as First Minister. I think the punishment under Islam is death for homosexuality and adultery, stoning to death for adultery, I think it is. So this is Darrell Brooke is an anti-white racist, the gentleman that ran over 5 people. So Craig Murray, which the Guerilla TV channel have actually supported, is out 4 months into his 8-month sentence, political prisoner by Wee Nippy. So Neil Mackay says something. Neil Mackay fears Scotland is turning its back on liberal values, correct? Because Wee Nippy is a postmodernist Marxist. And is he right to be concerned? Yes, he's 100% right to be concerned. That's right. I'm a liberal, a libertarian liberal. Nippy is not a libertarian. She is a postmodernist Marxist. Only interested in identity politics. She's another one that's identity politics based, because she's not produced any children. We are at risk of reverting to a bitter backward society by Neil Mackay. Neil Mackay. A tide of illiberalism, correct, he's correct what he said already, has swept the Western world over recent years, and Scotland, just like the rest of the UK, is far from immune. It's not just not immune, that all 5 major parties are part of this, all authoritarian, even the loonballs in the Green Party, the environmentalists, kidding they're not communists, and that we've got an alleged postmodernist Marxist, feminist, intersectional feminist alleged lesbian, childless, in a position of authority in Scotland, who's got increasingly authoritarian down the globalist agenda path, and so this is what's actually been happening. So you're correct, but you have to understand why you're correct. In American today, we see women's right to control her body. Well, we've got mandatory vaccinations in Germany and other places. So it's not just a woman's right to control her own body. And I support the right women to have abortions as well. Although I think it's better if women have relationships and actually go out on dates. I think that's better to substantiate a relationship before you start doing anything. I think that's probably a more advantageous way of conducting yourself. I think obviously sex without being in a relationship is probably to blame. To have access to abortions in peril of being swept aside. In Hungary, equality is dead. In France, the far right sharpens its knife. I think it's the postmodernist, intersectional, Marxist left that you've got to worry about, authoritarian left. The progress we made in the West from the late 1990s is now under threat as angry authoritarianism rises. Yeah, it's called postmodernist Marxism by Wee Nippy. Scotland is at risk of sliding back into bigotry and backwardness and bitterness. Yeah, because of Nippy, because that's what Nippy actually personifies. And we've got this idiot as Humza Useless now got the worst times for ambulances, actually probably killing people because of the ambulance delays because of his incompetence. But he's brown, so that makes all the difference. We need representation, regardless of his competence. We need representation. Because it's about what you look like that's important. It's not if you're competent to do the job. The record of antisocial behaviour by the SNP Greens, two far left parties, coalition targeting the Scottish people into starting to give cause for alarm. Of equal concern is the tendency to gaslight the people when they react negatively. Get this, react negatively. The anti-school. What happened there? I think this is skipped. The record of antisocial behaviour by the SNP Green coalition targeting Scottish people is starting to give cause for alarm. Of equal concern is the tendency to gaslight the people when they react negatively to their social directives. Yeah, because Wee Nippy's an authoritarian. Do you have concerns about the economic threat to the North East by the SNP newly discovered hostility to oil? Then, according to Patrick Harvey, you're guilty of being it's being belonging to the hard right. Don't forget that's what they said about me, and I'm a libertarian liberal. I'm a centrist, maybe centre right, but centrist libertarian. But definitely centre more of a liberal than on the right. But they call me far right. So it's just gaslighting. It's totally gaslighting the public, because the public are only taking in the headlines and just being totally gaslit by the combination of a compliant media protecting and not holding the political class to account. So let's have a look at this. So there's just 27% of the public say the government has been doing well to take back control of the borders. The Conservative Party, the Labour Party, the Liberals do not want to take control of the government. They are not going to. You would have to vote for maybe the UK Reform Party or UKIP if you want to take back control of the borders. They are not. They are signed the borders away. This has been done deliberately. I don't know how you want me to dress it up. It's the Conservative Party have signed away the borders. This has been done by the Tories. Boris Johnson, I've already been on the record and told you, Boris Johnson wanted amnesties for illegal immigrants here before he even get elected as Tory leader. So I don't know why why people are not understanding this
manifesto. And I wrote it as I did in terms of positive principles, because I think it's something that will attract 10 million plus people if they see it. And if they hear about us and what people are crying out for. You know, the principles in our manifesto are defending our culture and heritage. We are a wonderful country with a wonderful, fantastic history. Yeah, there have been some dark spots in it, as there have been in every country, every nation around the world ever in history. But on balance, we are a really, really great country. We're the first country that ever ended slavery. And not just here in the UK, we spent most of the 19th century going around the world, stopping the French and the Spanish and the Portuguese and the Arabs from trading in slaves as well. So we've done an amazing thing. We've done so many amazing things in this country. What a fantastic honour and privilege it is to be British. And I think we should all be proud of our nation. And I can't stand the people who constantly do us down with critical race theory. You know, it's the guy behind here, Sadiq Khan, setting up a commission to rename our streets and get rid of statues and put up other statues. Heaven knows what he wants to put up in the public spaces, but it's not going to be good. And I think, you know, people are just fed up of this, and they want a party that's going to conserve our nation and be proud of our history and heritage. When I started...
What a great guy. David Curtin's a fantastic fellow, really nice guy, and he needs to speak to Richard Tice. Colin Fox needs to speak to Richard Tice, and they all need to get into one party. It is pointless. And David Curtin's a fantastic politician as well, and he makes a lot of sense. So I'm unable to protect female patients and advocate for them without fear of recrimination. The word of one nurse among 460 who have called on the Nursing and Midwifery Council to withdraw from Stonewall's diversity scheme. Damning. Mr. Mishkin was forced to receive experimental injections or lose his job, suffered a massive heart attack, died 12 days later. This is from a COVID blog. Joe Miskin, 35-year-old from Florida, single father, received Pfizer mRNA, worked long hours, insured 2 children. Don't want to get too far into that with so these guys have been signing up, and let's see this. So this barrier prevents Islamic lorry attacks, and they're putting signs on the posters, which is correct. That's why they're there. This barrier protects you from diversity. This barrier prevents Islamic lorry attacks. This barrier protects you from diversity. So that's what they're there for. That's exactly why they're there. The Care Inspectorate wouldn't publish the full report into Humza Useless nursery complaint, so Alistair Clark got it off them via an FOI watchdog into Humza Yusuf's Dundee nursery racism complaint revealed. And I'll leave that there if anybody wants to go into the Twitter and check it out under David Clegg. Is that the David Clegg? David Clegg. Is that David Clegg? So you can go and have a wee look at that. The SNP Green Jobs record. Last August, Nicola Sturgeon announced £100 million green jobs bonanza. The investment over 5 years was supposed to form a key part of Scotland's post-pandemic green recovery, but no projects have yet been funded and nothing is planned for the rest of the financial year. So obviously, because we nippies locked us in the house for 2 years, the economy and tax receipts are rescinding, and obviously the more she increases tax, the less money is actually received. If she cut taxes and boosted the economy, but she doesn't want to do that because she's a doughball. The Law Commission has stopped short of calling for misogyny to be made a hate crime. All right, but misandry is okay. So it's one rule for one for another. So I'll get into critical race theory, the man behind critical race theory. I'll get into this guy later on. This is a cracker. So critical race theory with the picture of Marx. I'm going to use that in one of the next podcasts. So it's a Kit Kat. It's a Kit Kat. So this is the dream team of doughballs. It's the gay mafia.
And yet I can only say that I'm getting hundreds,
so GB News with Neil
possibly
Oliver.
thousands of pieces of mail now, as you say. And although these people are not connected to one another, we are many, many people. And it's the conclusion that I'm drawing is that it's millions of people who are opposed to what's going on, and although they feel isolated one from another, it is vital, and I do my best to try and reassure them and to unite them insofar as I can say I am hearing from all of you, and I can be I'm a linchpin for all of those that are getting in touch with me, and you are not alone.
He's a nice guy, isn't he? So that's from the Scottish Libertarian Party. Craig Murray, obviously, interview with Georgie Porgy. This guy is out there intimidating the judge. This woman shot this boy, I think by accident. I'm not sure. That it's obviously that it's going to be an ongoing, or the trial's about to start. She shouted taser, 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 and shot the young gentleman as well, and killed him. So obviously that's going to be. I'm not sure if it would be something. I don't know what the American equivalent of manslaughter would be. So wee Nippy again, wee Nippy. This is great. This is the Daily Express by Craig Hoy, Nicola Sturgeon. So this is the Reach PLC that controls all the media. Nicola Sturgeon is one abject failure. The only thing she runs effectively is a cynical SNP spin machine. As her party conference comes to a close, the First Minister must recognise she has no political legacy of 7 years of missed targets. That's absolutely brilliant, Mr. Hoy. That's absolutely spot on. The Daily Express. So as her virtual party conference, Nicola Sturgeon has confirmed she is going nowhere. I think that might change. In my time in political journalism taught me one thing, is that even the most astute leaders really know when the time has come to leave the stage. They hang on, looking for the final curtain call, hoping one last ovation, even when it's clear the audience has long since left the auditorium. Also, all political careers end in failure. There's going to be nothing that Nicola Sturgeon has given that is going to have been seen as a success. She has been the worst First Minister since the Parliament was reopened. Miss Sturgeon, wee Nippy, who last week announced she intended to serve a full term with no expectations. Well, politics gets in front of you and she might not have a choice. The First Minister spent the COP26 summit auditioning for a global role, popping up. Well, I think because she's a globalist shill, next to presidents and prime ministers and Hollywood potentates like Norma Desmond, and in Sunset Boulevard she was cut a lonely figure hanging around the fringe of the UN conference, hoping to catch a random selfie with a passing superstar. If there was an Oscar for grandstanding without purpose, Nicola Sturgeon would have won it in Glasgow. And sad reality for the First Minister is that she is no more likely to land a starring global role than Alex Salmond is to be cast as the next James Bond. But Alex Salmond was a far better politician than Nicola Sturgeon from a neutral point of view, and that's because Sturgeon's political career is inextricably linked with her predecessors. The fallout between the First Minister and the one-time political mentor was a modern-day adaptation of a Shakespeare tragedy. Well, I would say, and it was the one where I think it's more like Star Wars, where the Sith have got to kill the the previous Sith. I think that's what wee Nippy was doing. Salmon more social democrat-y, wee Nippy absolutely wacky far left loon ball. So what have we got here? So man busted for assault is freed, allegedly beats 2 random NYC women, New York, and is freed again. Catch and release system, Bristol private school to drop name of slave trader. I believe they've got a Muslim mayor in Bristol who follows a sexual slave trader for a profit. So I don't know, are they going to take down the mosque to prevent the slave trade that the Muslims have done in many different, in the rape of millions of women all over the world? Are they going to do something about the mosques? And they still advocate sexual slavery. So this young lady's gone missing. So big problems. The loony left in Greece are rioting. Viva Fry, a Jewish lawyer, I think his name's David as well, a liar saying there was no hoax. An honest person says it wasn't a hoax. A liar distances himself from the lie, though passive description. An honest person owns the truth. Justice Smollett is a liar. That's Dave's professional opinion as a lawyer, I think.
Makes a lot of us feel pretty mad. The channel crisis was mentioned a few minutes ago. And
GB News.
It's been quiet today. The weather's
with Big Nige
not been right for the dinghies. But a tweet that was put out by the Sun's political correspondent, Jonathan Riley, says this. The Home Office spent £10,664.27 on Domino's pizzas to feed small boat arrivals in Dover. And that...
But they don't do that for the people here, so they're actually doing a two-tier system, aren't they? People are just allowed to starve on the streets here. Are the SNP really still complaining about Boris breaking COVID rules? So, a man who steered himself and 25 other migrants across the channel in a small boat has been jailed for 2.5 years. Hamid al-Shamari, a Kuwaiti Kuwaiti Bidbon national. I didn't know there was a war in Kuwait. I don't know what he's seeking asylum for. If he's not, I don't understand that. Unless there's some issues, gay, apostate, I don't know, was found guilty of assisting unlawful immigration into the UK. Americans in some way are paying for their own destruction. Many of the Antifa communists, BLM communists and far left rioters who wreaked havoc on our communities over and over are living in public assistance and public benefits. Watch the interview. Oh, there's Zara Sultana mixing freely. She's not really bothered about the mask there, is she? Hypocrite. So there we have it. There's the duo there. There's another Labour Muslim MP up for Lord Ahmed of Rotherham, accused of rape and buggery of children. It's quite fitting that somebody who's buggered children should be made a lord of a place that had 1,400 sexual abuse cases that was overlooked by the political class. And this guy's been made a lord, although it should be said he's innocent until proven guilty, and I think that should be noted. So let's have a wee look at this. I like these interviews with Sydney. Like Sydney.
And the young, I'm just going to call them out. You know who really pisses me off? The young Turks. How they keep saying I cross state lines. But guys, don't call the feds. I crossed a bunch of state lines to get here.
Hey, crossing lines. You should make a shirt that says that.
Hey, I crossed the ocean to get here. I'm coming from Puerto Rico. So.
Oh, hell yeah.
Wow.
You were getting some sun.
Yeah, a little bit. Like,
Funny young man. Nicola Sturgeon, SNP government was branded disgraceful today after Holyrood Minister labelled supporters of future oil drilling hard right extremists. I think that's a cheat coming from the loony left Marxists of the Green Party. So quite enough of her. So they're trying to take down statues. The left are trying to take down statues of Napoleon, and they're trying to take statues down in Edinburgh as well. I don't know if I can find the thing. So this is the guy that killed 22, a refugee. That must be the friends that this woman's talking about. Manchester Arena inquiry. No signs of Abdi's extremism at school. Oh, well, that's good. CRT explained. Fatty, they're all calling it now the same as me. Fatty Andrew Neil. Alex, are you watching the Guerilla TV, Mr. Bedfield?
Andrew Neil has been tweeting again. Look at him. He's a heart attack waiting to happen. A big bone man in his...
I was calling Andy, Fat Andy.
Late 90s. A Judas who stabbed GB News in the back. He's a BBC man through and through. Never forget that.
A gatekeeper.
Oh, shushy, please. What is it with these people that they have to tell us how to live our lives, and because they're living it so perfectly and with such incredible righteousness and such superciliousness above anything that I'll ever achieve, that their inner thought has to be broadcast, that if you don't comply with the way they live the world, you are somehow a second-class citizen, intellectually, spiritually, and on a human level. Andrew Neil has fallen from grace, in my view, second only to our friend Nick Ferrari, who last week said he thinks we should get £100 fines for people who don't want a government injectable. That's lovely, Nick, to see that you're on the public side. Earlier on, I brought you the video of the brilliant Jason Manford, this fucking genius who thinks going on a stage in a mask proves some point to the government.
I met Jason before. I like Jason, but... What's this? No Shropshire by-elections. Will the Tories hold the seat? Exit the 1951 UN Refugee Convention. Well, I don't know if that's been superseded by the Refugee Convention in Marrakesh. It's on to preserve white nations. Yeah. So settle status for Hong Kong ex-servicemen. The government is growing more authoritarian by the day. Now it wants to strip drug users of their passports and jail protesters for up to 6 months. Lockdown may be over, but the liberty is still under attack. And Boris is meant to be a libertarian or a liberal or a libertarian liberal. Certainly nothing in his tenure has been libertarian or even liberal. It's been loony left. There's Leo Kirst doing his cancel culture. So here we have one of the asylum seekers, another rapist asylum seeker. This one's from Afghanistan. Dangerous man jailed for raping 2 women in Liverpool. Here we go. Here's the people who want them to stay.
Refugees are welcome here. Refugees are welcome here. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Refugees are welcome here. ho, ho! Refugees are welcome here! Hey, hey, ho, ho! Refugees are welcome here! Solidarity!
So, I'm not sure if they're talking about this refugees welcome here. But let's have a look at other refugees that seem to be coming here as well, that are not being protected by the government. There's share if you feel Canada's under attack by its own government. Obviously, there's been allegations that Turdo is the bastard child of Fidel Castro, which would make a lot of sense that he's not a liberal, but he's also a postmodernist Marxist like Horsey Face. And there's Horsey Face there. Jacinda Ardern net worth as of November the 4th last year was 800,000. Her new net worth is now stated to be 25 million. This is a 3,125% increase. Don't know where these figures are coming from. Her salary is only 470,000. Where is is all the money come from? Yes, I wouldn't like to say big pharma. In Sweden, tying back to the previous thing, in Sweden, professor faces prosecution for research paper that shows that most rapes were committed by Muslim migrants. In Sweden, 44 former actress, model, socialite from Britain, referred to as Kate, is testifying today against Ghislaine Maxwell, obviously using sexual taping and sexual control, honey traps to control the corporatist globalists. Obviously, Ghislaine's father, Robert Maxwell, was very well thought of by the Jewish Israeli Secret Service as well. I think a lot of the former Secret Service were at Robert Maxwell's funeral. So there's it was a modern day lynching. Kamala Harris talking about Jussie Smollett, and apparently we propped up a bully. Former Kamala staffers reveal VP inflicts, Vice President inflicts constant soul destroying criticism in her office. She sounds like a bundle of laughs. There's other Horsey Face, the Canadian. One of the biggest investments in recycling in Scotland. Recycle you back to Canada. Processing illegal migrants offshore is the only way to end this crisis. No, returning them to the country of origin is the way to put them on a plane back to the country of origin is the way to stop the crisis. Protests over COVID restrictions in Brussels, apparently all over Europe. There's been mass protests, rightly so, by demonstrators, definitely the good guys. France wants to send ambassadors back to Taliban-controlled Afghanistan, according to President Emmanuel Macron. There she is with, Tories scare me with no mask, but there she is cuddling and all sorts of stuff. There's the RNLI going to France to pick up the migrants, to transfer them across. France Muslims scream Allahu Akbar outside Zamur. I think he's Jewish. I think he's a globalist shill, kidding on his right wing. He's the globalist shill candidate to reduce Marine Le Pen's chances of winning. Molotov cocktails, knives, hand grenades confiscated. Oh, aye. Pakistani lynching. So this fellow was beaten to death in Pakistan for removing a poster that had writing about the Prophet Muhammad off a wall in a factory. Beaten to death and set on fire in Pakistan. And I believe he's not the only one. Whenever they say about blasphemy is almost like witches back in the day. If you call somebody a blasphemer in Pakistan, I don't know how you blaspheme against a child rapist death cult that had sex slaves and wants to kill people. But the punishment for blaspheming is actually death. So I've got Dave Wood here just to tell us that I'm correct, and I knew that before because I read it's not that Dave's informed me of this. I knew because I read the Quran and Hadith that this is correct.
A very powerful, yet extremely simple and easy to understand point for you that will help you expose Muhammad whenever there's breaking news of mob violence over allegations of blasphemy. You'll want to keep this handy. You want to
Pakistan is renowned for people being murdered by a mob who some Muslim has said that this person's blasphemed. And and they do this all the time, this mob murder. And that's that's Pakistan today.
Keep this.
Although Harris Sultan's a fantastic fellow. If you haven't followed Harris Sultan, you should follow him on YouTube.
In your tool belt, because we all know that more mob violence is coming in places like Pakistan. Now,
and Britain.
Several of my videos, when we're examining someone's claim that mob violence against so-called blasphemers has nothing to do with Islam, I quote passages like Sunan Abu Dawud 4361, where a man brutally murders his slave girl, who was also the mother of his children, for the crime of insulting Muhammad. But there's something in this passage that I've never pointed out, and once you see it, you'll understand why Muhammad is the one to blame for vigilante violence in Islam, and you'll be able to show Muslims why their prophet is directly responsible for the mob violence we see in the Muslim world. Let's read the passage, and then we'll focus on something terrible that often gets overlooked. Sunan Abu Dawud 4361. It was narrated that Ikrimah said, Ibn Abbas told us that a blind man had a female slave, she was his slave girl, his sex slave, who had born,
just like Muhammad had,
born him a child. So, like Muhammad, this man had sex with his slave girl and got her pregnant, who reviled the prophet and disparaged him, and he told her not to...
So basically, Muhammad was a rapist, and the fact is that other Muslims see Muhammad as the ideal man, so they see it's okay to rape women and children, for that matter.
Do that, but she did not stop. And
especially women who are non-Muslim, they just see them as kafir or unclean to be raped, which is what happened in Rotherham.
Rebuked her, but she paid no heed. One night she started to disparage and revile the prophet, so he took a dagger and put it in her stomach and pressed on it and killed her. There fell between her legs a child who was smeared with the blood that was there. The next morning, mention of that was made to the prophet, and he assembled the people and said, By Allah, I adjure the man who did this to stand up. The blind man stood up and came through the people, trembling, and he came and sat before the prophet. He said, O Messenger of Allah, I am the one who did it. She used to revile you and disparage you, and I told her not to do it, but she did not stop. And I rebuked her, but she paid no heed. I have 2 sons from her, who are like 2 pearls, and she was good to me. Last night she started to revile you and disparage you, and I took a dagger and placed it on her stomach, and I pressed on it until I killed her. The prophet said, Bear witness that no retaliation is due for her blood. This story is so horrible that it's easy to overlook the connection to mob violence in the world today. And the way the hadith is written, it's easy to miss the problem. The way the hadith is written, we're told that the slave girl insulted Muhammad and that there was no retaliation for her murder because she had insulted Muhammad. So the takeaway is that it's okay to murder someone for insulting Muhammad. That's bad enough, but take a closer look and you'll see that it's actually much, much worse. Think about this. How do we know what the slave girl did? How do we know that she insulted Muhammad? The only evidence against her is the testimony of her slave master who brutally murdered her. The only evidence against her comes from her killer. Think about it from the perspective of an investigation. Muslims find the body of a girl who's been stabbed to death. They tell Muhammad. Muhammad says, whoever did this, stand up now. The murderer knows that it's only a matter of seconds before someone says, hey, That's so-and-so's slave girl. They argue a lot, and now she's dead. So he stands up and says, yes, I brutally murdered her, but I couldn't help myself because she insulted you. And the man gets away with murder. Muhammad says, no retaliation for the murder. After all, she made fun of me. Now, maybe she did make fun of Muhammad. Who can blame her? He's the most obvious false prophet in history. But again, how do we know that she said anything about Muhammad? How do we know that her master didn't murder her for a completely different reason? How do we know that he didn't murder her for burning his falafel, or for calling him a loser, or for laughing at the size of his bank account? He could have murdered her for anything and then claimed that she insulted Muhammad, knowing that this would give him the best chance of getting away with murder. Muhammad set a very dangerous precedent here. How many times have we heard about a mob brutally murdering a man or a woman for blasphemy in Pakistan, and it turned out that someone from the mob had falsely accused the man or the woman, or that the only evidence against the man or the woman was the testimony of someone that he or she had been arguing with?
Well, that just shows you, and that's directly from the text. So let's have a look at these fellas. So we've got a thing here. Any Muslim refugee caught molesting women or children to be deported immediately. And that's in the UK. There's horsey
Using vaccine passes, it makes sure that unvaccinated people aren't being put at risk in environments where it is harder to keep them safe.
But you can still get it and pass it if you're vaccinated, so what difference does it make? Horsey face.
And I'm confident that we can do that. The traffic light system is also about providing greater protection than we have now. By using vaccine passes, it makes sure that unvaccinated people aren't being put at risk.
What a dobo. If that is true, that she's taking bribes from the pharmaceutical industry, and she's made that 24 million, she should go to jail. She should be jailed. Pre-election defection. There you go. There's old laws are there. They really, before the next election, the claiming reform need to amalgamate, but just before, months before, so that they can amalgamate and it'll increase the vote substantially. CRT, I'll come back to CRT later. So where's all these? Oh, there's two guys. I'm not going to show you that, but that was two guys getting shot by the Taliban, hung and then shot. Nicola Sturgeon snubs women's rights activists as they abandon the SNP. Nicola Sturgeon snubs women's rights activists as they abandon the SNP over gender policies. I think probably going to join Alba and the Scottish Libertarian Party. Other elected officials have blocked campaigners, including Pete Wishart, John Nicholson and Humza Useless. Scotland's most vocal women's rights activists have been blocked on social media by senior SNP politicians, the First Minister, in what has been described as an organised effort to ignore their viewpoint. Now, we know that they're just a dictatorship anyway. The Daily Express has spoken that women behind some of the biggest groups opposing SNP reforms to the Gender Recognition Act. So women are now protesting against the Gender Recognition Act because obviously now that I've transitioned into a woman and call myself Daphne, I'll be able to access female-only spaces. Right, I see. That's good. Looking forward to the Gender Recognition Act. They said efforts to engage with the party members on tough topics have resulted in their letters and emails being ignored, eventually Twitter accounts being blocked. There's so Jojo Cherry is a man-hating, penis-destroying TERF. So she's the flip side. So we've got wee Nippy, the intersectional feminist lesbian, allegedly postmodernist Marxist, and we've got Jojo Cherry by name, Cherry by nature, misandrous, men-hating, nasty, other flip side of the coin, lesbian. So we've got two extremes. I don't think all lesbians are the majority of lesbians are like these two women, but really, honestly, these two take the biscuit. The protection of women's spaces in psychic state. So she would doesn't want to see any penises at all. And I don't think Nicola Sturgeon's ever seen a penis either, but she seems she doesn't seem to have penisophobia. Jojo Cherry has got penisophobia. And she doesn't like penises, doesn't like anything with a penis connected to it, no penises. And that's it. She's just hates men. The protection of women's spaces and single space rights are at the top of the agenda for women interviewed, and their overwhelming tell the same story about struggle to be heard on some of the most contentious topics in today's politics. In some instances, these women have been long-term supporters of the SNP, but now say they're no longer vote for them after feeling abandoned and angry. So this is Jojo Cherry. So SNP members demand Jojo Cherry be stripped of the party whip over transgender rights stance. I told you Jojo will be there and join the Alba party. Her and Alex Salmond are very close. She's a TERF. The Alba party are full of TERFs, and they don't go on with wee Nippy's postmodernist Marxism. Postmodernist Marxism. Megan Gallagher looking happy there. Don't know if she's a lesbian as well. Seems there's a lot of lesbians and gay people in the Scottish Parliament, maybe a disproportionate number. Really disappointing communications. Tory Megan Gallagher, or maybe she's not a lesbian, said that women should be listened to. Maybe she's a TERF. Women should be listened to. Account fights for women's rights. Kate Harris, founder of the LGB Alliance, which doesn't like the penises either, so they're a TERF organisation. Maybe the G's and the B's might like it, but the L's, I don't think so. Penisophobia. That has questioned the government's stance on gender identity, reported that she and other members have been blocked after trying to engage with the party. All right. Where is the thing I was trying to find? So Pakistan, more than 100 people arrested after blasphemy killing. Usually they don't do it, but obviously there's been a big problem. So here's one of the Pakistani gentlemen.
In a highly explicit way. Ring any bells yet? Does it ring any bells? Yes. What's the legal age of consent in this country? 16. So why are you talking to a 14-year-old in that manner?
You speak up.
Sorry? Yes, she did. She told you her age. She told you her age. I've got all the evidence. So you did know. And you were very clever, weren't you? Because you sent numerous... I lost count of how many pictures you sent of your disgusting penis to a 14-year-old child. But you kept deleting them, didn't you? Why were you deleting them if you knew she was, if you thought she was an adult? Sorry?
It's what? Personal pictures.
Why are you sending personal pictures like that to a child?
Interesting. So, wee Nippy wants to tear down, so this nice lady here, Christine Jordan, former Brexit Party MEP for W South West and Gib, immigrant, proud Brit. She is saying, please help save Edinburgh statues and stop stampeding herd, narrow-minded consensus sanctimonious dictators from redefining history and judging historical figures by their current critical standards, basically the postmodernist Marxist standards. So that's what we've got from Wee Nippy and the globalist shills. want to destroy Scotland's history. And that's a beautiful statue as well. I mean, honestly, what are they going to replace it with? You can see by the state of the buildings that they build today. Look at that monstrosity. So that guy wasn't a one-off. So let's have a wee look at, keep going down here. Oh, look. Drug users to hand over passports and driving licence. Anti-racist, I'll come on to the anti-racist stuff later on. Oh dear, what a state. Where is this? Oh, this is the thing I was talking about. So, nothing on the media. These 6 guys killed a white guy, so 6 Muslims. Let's just see it. This echoes of the Chris Donald's case. Just like the Chris Donald case. Chris Donald's obviously dead, but just like the people that were involved in the Chris Donald case, these guys will get out at some point in the future. 6 men jailed for murdering Bradley Gledhill in a street attack in Batley last year had their sentences increased by a combined 28 years following an intervention by the Solicitor General. So these guys all murdered. Don't know if it was a racist murder, just like the Chris Donald's murder. But young guys. Bradley was stabbed to death, then punched, kicked and stamped upon as he lay dying on the ground. 2 of his friends were also stabbed repeatedly. So that was all 3 guys, 2 attempted murders and 1 murder by a group of Asian Muslims, which echoes what had happened with Chris Donald. So these guys get their, I don't know if it was seen as a racist murder as well, but you can see this gets kicked into the long grass and doesn't get explained. So there's life imprisonment up 6 years, up 5 years, so 27 years he got, 16 years, up 4 years, up 5 years. So again, very worrying as well. They don't do this. So here we go, there's another chap here.
Yeah, so you have been talking to a 14-year-old child online. Yes, we know you're here for a different reason today, but you're actually here.
You always reply me, but I didn't reply you because...
Well, you do, because I've got 2,500 screenshots of you.
Yeah, but I don't know.
You do. You've enticed masturbation. You've offered to buy her tickets.
But actually,
You've asked for...
I don't want a video for...
Unfortunately, you don't have that choice, okay? It will be continuing. Yeah. It will be forwarded to the police. You will be arrested today.
I don't know.
For sexual communication.
I don't know what happens.
What happens?
Yeah, because I don't have any fees for UK for the last 4 years, so...
You don't have anything for the UK, so you're not supposed to be here?
I don't know.
Well, then obviously that's another matter, but what I'm here for is your sexual communication to a child. That's what I want to talk about.
Okay, that's number 2. Sturgeon faces court fight on transgender question in census. Oh, here we go. There's another gentleman here. Another one stung by our paedophile hunters yesterday, originally from Pakistan, here on family visa. Oh, here's Tommy Sheridan about to, or he has deregistered Solidarity. So Solidarity is no longer a political party. I don't think it stood any candidates at the last election, although Tommy Sheridan is back in politics. The government should be given a restraining order, certainly some of them, yeah, Boris Johnson rips up Theresa May's immigration plan and refuses to set limits on new arrivals. Thursday, 25th July 2019. So this is coming from Boris Johnson. Remember this article in 2019, Boris Johnson will not stop mass immigration. That's correct. I'm not old enough to drink, let alone choose my sexuality or gender. How about you let me enjoy me being a child and leave me alone? Brilliant. So obviously the feds. Definitely fake that. So women are safe. Serial abuser jail for life for girlfriend's murder. What's happening here? Oh, this guy's getting kicked in the face, robbed. I think that's in New York. It seems to be quite safe over there. Let's see this gentleman. What's this gentleman?
You're a dirty bastard. We do not like people like you in England. You understand me? What's legal is...
I'm not dirty, trust me.
No, you are. Shush. You are.
Okay, thank you.
Listen.
Thank you.
Listen, don't start smiling, mate.
No.
Don't antagonise people and shit like
Okay,
that.
I am
Don't speak to people because you'll antagonise people. You know what I mean? We don't want no one attacking you. Don't apologise. Fuck all. You tell police that when you fucking see them, you dirty bastard. You understand me? What's age in your country?
Me.
What country are you from? Iraq. What's the age of consent to have sex in your country?
More than 20.
20?
Yeah, more.
So you have to be over 20?
Married, yeah.
So you have to be married and shit like that? Well, in this country, it's 16.
True.
So you know that it's 16.
True.
Why are you coming to rape a
Listen,
fucking English child?
Life, I don't want to rape.
Do you know what I mean? You come over from Iraq, we don't deal with this shit like this. And I'm sure in Iraq they probably deal with it a bit different to you as well. They probably cut your fucking head off.
I don't know if that's been handled very well from the paedophile hunting on that one, but it seems like there's an ongoing pattern here. People, I mean, they're obviously just able to come over, and former SNP and Qualities chief claims years worth of complaints still unaddressed. A man arrested on suspicion of making possession of explosive substances. Man arrested on suspicion of making or possessing explosive substances in Derby. Oh, well, that's good. Wonder who that was. A man has been arrested on suspicion of making or possessing an explosive substance in Derby, as more than 50 houses were evacuated in the area. Oh, 20 years ago, BBC called Rotherham child rape victims prostitutes. Why did they call their abusers child rape? Why did they call their abusers child rapists? A young Jew returned to Oxford Street in the light. So there's the Pope getting involved as well. All the globalists are getting involved in the deliberate mass immigration. BBC apology sought for reporting subjecting anti-Semitic abuse victims responding with anti-Muslim slurs. I'm not sure that is. Not sure why that guy's punching her in the face. Apparently, it was far left protesters. One of the leftist protesters trying to disrupt the rally got punched in the head. Spain, Barcelona protest against restrictions. So the massive protests. Nicola Sturgeon not interested. Don't care about Scottish people. Sturgeon slammed as Shell deal crumbles. Yeah, leave one group of communists to join another group of communists, SNP and Alba, both globalist commies. Yeah, that's right. Vastec, damn it, go. Yeah, so that's right, that's it. So, what's this? I wish that would stop happening. So, this guy.
Have your phone, face.
Look at that hole. That's a tree. Oh, we're going in circles.
Why did you have your phone facing us with the cameras pointing to me twins? You've just had your phone pointing towards us. That's
the feds, this is great. In the case of falling poll numbers, break the glass. Oh, wonder what this gentleman's involved in.
Worker, why are you here today, mate? Sorry, mate. You don't say sorry, that don't fucking beat it with us. Why are you here? Do you want to tell me why you're here today? Why do you want me to bring the Vaseline? Why did you want her to bring Vaseline? You're not going back in your car. You didn't mind being a child, did you? Do you want to explain yourself? Why not? Do you know if I cut you some slack? Do you know if I cut you some slack now and I let you go? Are you going to fucking do this again? Never. You promise? Promise. So do you want me to let you go? So if you're going fucking nowhere, you're getting locked up. Alright, you filthy animal.
So obviously people are now working with the police, but they're obviously there's a lot of this. Rotherham rapist Barham Hussein abused girls in police station car park, but was let go. Don't know what they're doing in Rotherham. Police try and arrest man for not wearing a ski mask. Ah, right, I see. Man left bloodied in brutal attack in subway. So it's been deliberately done by Boris Johnson. The open immigration policy, as we know, they're not going to affect it because Boris Johnson and the Tories are actually doing it deliberately. They know that these people are coming in illegally and they're facilitating it. And then apparently they seem to be wanting to meet British children and raping them. In the future, favoured by the SNP purely on political grounds, the economics of it are pretty much irrelevant. Stalinisation. So, I'm going to leave that bit there. So there's obviously a lot of cases. So back to what I was talking about earlier on. That Sir John Curtis urges caution on 55% yes poll. Yeah, I think that is correct. Seemed to come out of nowhere. Research support that Scottish independence has risen to 55% should be treated with caution, according to the leading expert. Which, to be fair to Professor Curtis, he continually gets it right. Research is showing support for Scottish independence has risen to 55%. Should be treated with caution. I knew it was nonsense as well, according to leading experts. But if Nippy fails in getting Scottish independence, if she gets the next referendum, that's her done as well. That's her out. Sir John Curtis, politics professor at Strathclyde University, said the study by Ipsos Mori was somewhat different from other recent surveys on the subject. The poll for the STV found that the Yes campaign would win a second referendum if it was held, with 55% backing independence and 45% no when undecided voters were excluded. Such an outcome would represent a reversal of the result of the last referendum in 2014, where the pro-UK side won with 55%. However, Sir John said the study had to be put into context with other polls. Yeah, it seemed like an anomaly. So, I think that's me. I've talked enough. What are the guys saying? Gillian Maxwell, I think that's what I was looking at. Corbyn will not be allowed to stand again. What's this? Oh, that's me. So, well, that's me finished. I've had enough of this. I've had enough of talking tonight. And I hope you enjoyed it. It was certainly good for me. I'll leave you to it. I love you and leave you. My baby gorillas.